looks as if he's all right. Should be a bit dry. In fact, there it is. You can see it's a bit strawy, brown and strawy where the crowd. I think there's a pretty clear lie, just a little chip and run, nipped up shot up to the green. And I wonder what Mr. Rafferty will be thinking tonight. He dropped a stroke on the first hole. Just think of the little shots he's dropped. He had what looked suspiciously like a socket at the 16th and dropped a shot there, drove in the bunker at the 15th. He's 4 behind, but my word, just for a couple of simple little errors, he might have been chasing the great man all the way instead of giving him this rather pleasant cushion of 4 shots. Just a little bump up onto the green. Awkward shot from down below the level of the bank. Safely on. Now Rafferty flips one up, and that was beautifully played. One of the strong parts of Rafferty's game is with his slow pitch with the sundown round the green. Nice to see how well he's come on in the last couple of months. So certainly now for the Ryder Cup in September at the Belfry. Quite a few new players on both teams this year. Rafferty just going for his birdie 4. Yes, so he's played this hole 4 times, had 4 birdies. He finishes at 17 under. A nice week's work for him. And in 69. Faldo. This putt for a 66 after 2 65s. He really has played some cracking golf this week. Come on. Come on. Well, just tiptoed in. Well done, Nick. Well done indeed. Terrific. 4 rounds, averaging better than 67. And that set a new 4-round total here, record for the 4 rounds. And he really has played some wonderful golf. And of course he's been holding the putts this week. That makes such a difference when someone's playing well and holding the putts and oozing confidence.
Nick, many congratulations. It's been a great week. Started off with a win in the PGA, then dinner with Mrs. Thatcher, and now a win in the Dunhill Masters.
Yes, and I managed to slip in a night out with Elton John as well, so he's a fan and he was watching, so hope he's watching now. I've been very fortunate. You know, after last week, I obviously thought it was possible to keep playing well, and you know, my luck's held. You know, I've managed to play well and putt very well for 3 days, which has been great.
Well, that was a very skillful shot you played at Wentworth earlier in the week at the 15th, where you had to cut one under the bushes, yeah. And 16, although it wasn't the same shape you were hitting, it was in a way similar type of shot.
Yeah, I went for the magic 3-iron straight away. I thought, but the ground's so hard. I mean, I hit that ball and I think it must have landed 40 yards short of the green, and the next bounce was almost on the front of the green. So, and I was fortunate with the chip. I chipped it just a little too far, but it hit the pin and then it checked it up.
Lovely birdie at 17, but then what happened with the second shot at 18?
I don't know. I sort of fell asleep. You're down at the bottom of the hill there. You can't see anything. You're trying to conjure up a shot, and you know, when you're ahead, I just wanted to just knock it up there and walk to the green.
Well, of course, the US Open is coming up, and you had a great run at that last year. You must really be looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm going to start. I've been thinking of that, obviously, for the last few weeks. I'm going to seeing David, you know, a few days, get a little bit of practice in, and hopefully we can, you know, I'll go over, and if I can stay in the same frame, and of course, if I could putt like this for 4 days over there, then it would be, that really would be the treat.
Have you played on that course before?
No, I haven't. No, I never seen it, but in fact, David played it a couple of days, so I sent my coach to play the courses now for me, you see.
Faldo's 21 under par is a record score for 4 rounds in this event, and of course he's done what Sandy Lyle did last year. He's achieved the US Masters and the British Masters double. Mike Harwood and Peter Mitchell came in last of all. Harwood birdied the last 2 holes and finished 12 under in joint 3rd place. Mitchell birdied the last, he finished 10 under in joint 9th place. Now how about the Ryder Cup points table? Rafford is 2nd place here, means that he's shot to the top of the table, and Faldo, who's played twice and won twice in Europe this year, is already in 3rd place, and that means automatic selection for the Ryder Cup in September. Well, BBC Television's next golf will be the United States Open. That's in 2 weeks' time, and of course Nick Faldo will be there. Will he achieve yet another triumph? From Woburn, goodbye.
Desert, and a long haul for the truck convoy carrying the cars from Mexico. It's a street circuit at Phoenix, and it's going to be an exhausting 2-hour race in temperatures of well over 100 degrees on a bumpy, slippery surface rimmed by unyielding barriers. One mistake and you're into the wall, and concentration is going to be very difficult to maintain. Just like 1988, it's already looking like a 2-man contest for the Drivers' Championship, with Senna and Prost well ahead of the rest. Prost was unhappy before Mexico, but he's even unhappier now. He was outdriven by Senna, and his misery was compounded by making the wrong tyre choice and then having 2 long pit stops, which pushed him down to 5th place. Double world champion Alain Prost, with 35 wins behind him, admits to having lost motivation against the ambitious Senna. In 1986, he won his 2nd world championship at the last race in Australia. Now there are rumours that he'll either retire at the end of this season or join another team, maybe a new team from Peugeot. But today, only another win for McLaren will do. The unsponsored British Tyrrell team has been doing well this year, 3 consecutive point-scoring races. The Tyrrell heydays were with Jackie Stewart. here winning his 27th race, the German Grand Prix in 1973. 10 years later, Michele Alboreto won the American Grand Prix at Detroit for Tyrrell, the last normally aspirated victory in the turbo years. And today he's back with the team, showing all his old brilliance in the new Ford-powered 018, in which he was a superb third at Mexico. Veteran Ricardo Patrese was second in Mexico in his 180th Grand Prix. For Eddie Cheever, Phoenix is home. He was born here and the city's rooting for him. But it's Ayrton Senna who's expected to make the pace today. But making the pace 21 years ago was this man, the great Jim Clark, with more pole positions than anyone else, 33. But now Senna is the top man. But today he starts from the front in Phoenix for the 34th time. And Senna has won the last 3 American Grand Prix on the streets of Detroit. All set for what should be 80 laps of this 2.4 mile street circuit. Any moment now, the green light and go. And that's it. And straight into the lead goes Ayrton Senna and Prost alongside him, and Prost taking the lead. And now Senna is coming through alongside him. Behind is Mansell, and Nannini's in third position. Then the 2 Ferraris, then the 2 Brabhams, the Dallara's well up. Everybody is getting round the first corner okay, into the left-hander, and now it's another right, and then a sweeping long left into a 90-degree turn, and there's a lot of those here at Phoenix. This is a course which demands a lot of second and third gear work. It's Senna, Prost, Nannini, Mansell is in fourth position. Then it's the Dallara of Caffey, the 2 Brabhams. It's Modena behind Caffey, Brundle behind Modena, then Gerhard Berger. But the McLarens, as usual, are out front. Nannini in the Benetton, then the Ferrari. They're streaming through, and don't forget, this race is going to last something like 2 hours, a very, very long and grueling one.
Yes, it's likely to be stopped before they complete the full distance, because the rule is 200 miles or 2 hours, whichever is the shorter of the two. And there's Modena having a go. Was it Brundle? No, that was Martin Brundle, just locked up his brakes there, trying to get past, to fight his way past Caffey, but got away without any serious loss of time. And Prost, having made the better start of the 2 McLarens off the front row, must wonder what he's got to do about Senna, because Senna just drove round the outside of him at the first corner. And here we see Brundle just locking his front brakes, his left front, but he manages to get it beautifully back under control, and he only lost the 1 place.
Lap 4, and Ayrton Senna, you can see the gap between Senna in the lead, Prost in second place, Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, then it's Alex Caffey in a superb 4th position, followed by Modena and Brundle, and that is Gabriele Tarquini as Capelli and the rest of them go through. There is Christian Danner, but Tarquini looks as though he's going to be the first to stop.
Yes, he's certainly well out, but incidentally the tire situation between the 2 McLaren drivers has reversed from last week. Tarquini seem to be getting going again, and here you see what happens with Tarquini, and he managed to perpetrate that all by himself, just a little spin. And that is Philippe Alliot parked, and that looks like the end of his race for the day. As I was saying about the 2 McLarens, this time Prost has gone for the harder compound B tyres all round, which is a very conservative choice, and Senna has got B's on the right-hand side and C's on the left of his car.
And there is Alex Caffey and Stefano Modena battling for 4th position. And it's ironic that these two both had to pre-qualify, which they did extremely well, and now they're well up, and you can see that Martin Brundle is behind them, and behind Martin Brundle is Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari. So still Ayrton Senna leading, Alain Prost in second position, Nigel Mansell is third. Here is the battle for fourth position, and we are on lap 7 in what we expect to be an 80-lap race, maybe a bit less with the times that they're doing now. But Caffey ahead of Modena in the Brabham, Caffey in the Dallara, Brundle in the background. Behind Brundle is Gerhard Berger, still recovering from his burnt hands, and Modena goes through and takes Alex Caffey, moves up a place. This young Italian, Stefano Modena, who last year drove for Eurobrunn, a car in which he really hadn't got a hope of doing well. Now he's got some good machinery, and so is Brundle there. And look at this battle behind them with Derek Warwick and Riccardo Patrese. And this is the battle for 10th position. There's Warwick, Patrese, Capelli behind Patrese, and behind Capelli is Eddie Cheever in the Arrows. So Warwick and Cheever both well up in the Arrows. And Warwick going through, looking up, looking his land, and he hits De Cesaris' Dallara. De Cesaris spins, Warwick goes up the escape road.
Yes, and you have to say, unfortunately, that was a mistake by Derek Warwick there, and you see the puncture there on De Cesaris' right rear tyre. You see the tyre's flat, but he's going to keep going. Remember, he's still racing. He can get that changed when he gets into the pits, and try not to lose too much time. So limping around, and here we see it again. Now Warwick goes for the inside. He's a bit committed, and he locks, and then he realises he's not going to make it. He brakes harder, locks his left front, which of course reduces the amount of grip, and so De Cesaris will be going as fast as he can for the pits to replace that broken rear wheel, which is what they're doing. There they are.
And while all this is going on, Alessandro Nannini, who started so well, third on the grid, and who incidentally had a nasty smash in the warm-up this morning, has slipped right down the charts. He's in 9th position. He's obviously in some kind of trouble. Out goes De Cesaris and now on lap 10, that's about 1/8 distance. You can see the gap. There's Senna leading, Prost in second position. Look down the course and you see Nigel Mansell third, and right up behind him it's Modena, and then in 5th position it's Alex Caffey. If you look down the course a bit, and in 6th position is Martin Brundle, followed in 7th position by Gerhard Berger. And Caffey is driving an absolutely magnificent race. But as ever, we've got used to seeing that this year. Ayrton Senna is making the pace at the front.
Yes, Caffey and Modena, the two young up-and-coming Italians, putting on a very impressive performance. Meanwhile, Prost not really letting Senna get away too much, clinging on a little bit. Remember, Prost is in theory on a slightly slower tyre compound, and there is Nannini in the pits.
And race order, Ayrton Senna, and Nannini is retiring. Well, and that is Maurizio Gugelmin. He hasn't been having a very good year after the earlier races. It looks as though he's got brake trouble to me.
Yes, it looked to me like they were bleeding the brakes, and that of course is a bit strange, because if he has got a soft pedal, it's almost certainly because the fluid's boiling in this scorching heat here with of course the street circuit, a lot of stop and start, bad on brakes. And Senna leading the race, Prost starting to drop back a little bit.
The gap now between Senna and Prost is 8 seconds. So it looks as though the remorseless Ayrton Senna has once again got the measure of Alain Prost. He's increased the gap from 2.4 seconds to 8 seconds. Nigel Mansell in 3rd position, but not making any impression on Alain Prost. In 4th position, it's still Stefano Modena. In 5th position, it's Caffey. In 6th place, it's Martin Brundle. In 7th place, it is Gerhard Berger. And in 8th place, Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell. And there is Alain Prost. So Alain Prost doing his best. Don't forget that Alain Prost has got a different tyre combination, and now you see Gerhard Berger and Riccardo Patrese fighting for 7th position. And Patrese taking it, is he? Gerhard Berger 7th, Patrese is 8th, and then Capelli in 9th place, and they're all together.
Yes, and Patrese just locked his brake, a little puff of smoke as he locked his brakes, having a look down the inside of Berger then. And here we see the battle from Capelli's car. He's got the onboard camera today, and he's having a go down the inside of Patrese, and it looks like he's got through. It all looked a bit close, but tremendous driving from Capelli, and we don't see a lot of overtaking here. So that was fine opportunism there by Capelli. I think Patrese was concentrating more on Berger ahead of him, and didn't really see him coming, didn't really make any attempt to defend the position. We see now from outside the car, and yes, and he did, he jumped him. He took him completely by surprise, and that was very well judged piece of overtaking.
And Ayrton Senna, the gap between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost is being reduced. It was at 1.8 seconds, with Senna having increased it to 2.4. It's come consistently down. And now on lap 28, with Ayrton Senna and Prost both having lapped Johnny Herbert in the background, the gap is down to a mere 3.6 seconds, with Prost coming up to lap Gabriele Tarquini, who finished so well in 6th position in Mexico last week. You see Johnny Herbert in the background. Race order then, lap 28. Prost is now 4 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. 3rd is Mansell in 4th position behind Nigel Mansell. It is Caffey. In 5th position it's Modena. In 6th position it's Martin Brundle. 7th is Berger, and in 8th place Riccardo Patrese, just ahead of Eddie Cheever. But Nigel Mansell has gone missing. Nigel Mansell, 3rd in the Ferrari, has disappeared from our lap charts. We're waiting for him to appear now, but there he is, Nigel Mansell rolling into the pit lane. And I have to make the sad forecast, it's only a guess, that Nigel Mansell has been stricken by gearbox problems as he was. And Martin Brundle has moved up into fourth position. The race order now is Ayrton Senna leading Alain Prost by a decreasing margin, with Mansell seemingly coming in to retire. Prost in 2nd position, and there he is on this, the 31st lap. In 2nd position, Prost, there is Senna ahead. In 3rd position, it's Caffey, Brundle, Berger and Patrese. So Martin Brundle in the Brabham is up into 4th position.
And we've heard a little bit of a misfire occasionally on Senna's car. He's gone past us once or twice sounding rather rough, and then it seems to clear up. And certainly on the majority of laps, he's able to lap without any apparent problem. But Prost is seeming to be the quickest car on the circuit, and even when Senna's not having a problem, Prost is chipping away at that lead. And Prost now has fastest lap.
And out of the race have gone already Alessandro Nannini, Michele Alboreto, who was in 8th position, Maurizio Gugelmin, that we saw come into the pits and is now out of the race. Nigel Mansell in the pits, but the good news is that they are working on the Ferrari, and it seems likely that Nigel Mansell is going to rejoin the race. But there is Stefano Modena sitting impassively in the Brabham. Looks to me as though, yes, there's brake trouble. They're bleeding the hydraulic brake system. On goes the wheel over the calipers. Bruce in the background, working on the side of the car, and Modena will be rejoining shortly, having been well up. And now we're looking at Ayrton Senna, race leader, catching his countryman, 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet, who started well down on the grid.
Yes, and there we have a new fastest lap for Alain Prost. He's definitely the quickest man on the circuit. When all is well, he's going 2 or 3 tenths of a second a lap quicker than Senna, but certainly the heat here is beginning to take its toll, particularly on brakes. But basically a street circuit like this, everything on all of the cars is pretty marginal for temperature.
So look how close Alain Prost is to Senna now. Senna must be in some sort of trouble. He's passed Piquet. Now Prost going to do the same thing. They've got Modena who's come out of the pits, and Prost is now past Piquet. Now Alain Prost, the man who desperately wants to get his revenge over Ayrton Senna, who has beaten him 3 times this year, and Alain Prost is second in the World Championship, 7 points behind Senna, is making his bid for the leadership.
Yes, and he may well be helped, because if Senna does have an intermittent misfire with his engine, that will be just enough for Prost to nip by without actually having to fight his way past, because I think if Senna wanted to defend that position around a circuit such as this, he could defend it probably for a pretty long time, so long as his car ran completely cleanly. And Prost moving into position. And a little wave from Senna. He's beckoning Prost past, and he's actually waved Prost through, which probably suggests that he is in some sort of mechanical trouble. But he seems to have tucked in easy enough, and a nice little wave of acknowledgement for Prost. So that's probably the most friendly exchange the two drivers have had for quite a while.
Alain Prost leads the American Grand Prix at Phoenix, Arizona. Now, is he going to be able to pull away from Senna? It could well be that Prost has made the right decision this time, and Senna is into the pits. Is it to change tyres? Because Senna started with C's on the left, which are softer compound, B's on the right, and Prost had 4 B compound tyres, but the nose is coming off. That's got nothing to do with tyres and wheels. And the top of the body is cut. This is very, very bad news for Ayrton Senna sitting in the car there. Prost is leading. Caffey is in 2nd place. Berger is up into 3rd place. In 4th position, it's Martin Brundle. In 5th place, it's Riccardo Patrese. There is Nigel Mansell back in the race. And in 6th position, chasing Patrese now, it's Eddie Cheever, who has had an awful season so far. But Mansell has had some sort of adjustments done to the Ferrari. He is back in the fray. He is 2 laps down. But Senna's car is being readied. He's going to get back into the race, but he is a long way down. He's over a lap down now, and Alain Prost, if he can keep going, is in a very commanding position indeed. So as Senna charges back into the race, Prost leads. Alex Caffey in the Dallara, the little Italian who had to pre-qualify here at Phoenix, as he has had to do every race this year, is in 2nd place ahead of the Ferrari of Berger. And now, with Ayrton Senna really flying, he seems to have got the car going. There is the order. You can see that Prost is 42 seconds ahead of Caffey, who is 10 seconds ahead of Berger, who is 3 seconds ahead of Patrese, who is 1 second ahead of Eddie Cheever. So you're looking now at Ayrton Senna, the world champion of 1988, and Nigel Mansell out of the race. This time there is no mistake. He's been into the pits, he's come out again, but Nigel Mansell retires and sprints back over the course, over the wall, back to the pit. Nigel Mansell tremendously fit, of course, very disappointed indeed, and Ayrton Senna on his way.
Yes, they had a fiddle around with the car. They not only were they looking at the engine, they also were fiddling around at the front, which might suggest that he had some brake trouble, and Senna really flying, as one would expect, on fresh rubber at this stage of the race. So a new fastest lap of the race to Ayrton Senna. And there is the Patrese and Cheever battle ahead of Senna, and that's a battle that's been going on pretty much for the whole race so far.
And it's the battle for 4th position, because...
And it is a problem potentially for Cheever, though, because the Williams Renault has notably more power than the Cosworth engine in Cheever's car, in his V8, and quite frankly, on a circuit like this, when somebody's got a big power advantage, it's very difficult for Cheever to find a way. He's been snapping at...
Ayrton Senna coming up through the field. He's trying desperately to unlap himself. Eddie Cheever battling against Riccardo Patrese for 4th position, and ahead of them are Berger in 3rd place. Caffey is in 2nd place. Prost is still leading, and Modena has spun, having rejoined the track. And the race order now, as Stefano Modena rejoins the circuit, is Alain Prost leading, and it's still Caffey 2nd, Berger 3rd, Patrese in 4th position, Cheever in 5th place, Martin Brundle in 6th position, Modena being passed by Tarquini and Stefan Johansson, who is going well.
Yes, and I'm sure Modena's still in brake trouble. We saw a picture of him in the pits earlier, having the brakes bled, but it's almost certainly to be caused by boiling the fluid rather than an air leak. And there's Ayrton Senna coming back into the pits, so difficult after him. And we saw Alex Caffey just coming beside him to his pit.
And that means to say, of course, that Gerhard Berger has gone up into 2nd place, and this is terrible news for Ayrton Senna. The very serious, dedicated and ambitious Ayrton Senna now is slipping back effectively in the race. We're on lap 44. Alain Prost is leading. Gerhard Berger is 2nd. This now is the battle for 3rd position, with Patrese in the Williams Renault number 6 in 3rd place. Just behind him and going through lapping Tarquini is Eddie Cheever in 4th position, and Martin Brundle in the Brabham Judd is in the pits. The Englishman who finished in 6th position at Monaco. But now Prost has got a commanding lead. He is some 50 seconds now ahead of Gerhard Berger. In only his 2nd race, Berger, since those terrible burns that he sustained in the San Marino Grand Prix, and there is Gerhard Berger. So 52 laps. Prost leads Patrese, and now Patrese up into 2nd position, Cheever up into 3rd place, Berger that we're looking at down into 4th position. And Gerhard Berger has said that if it wasn't for the... And that's Caffey. That is Alex Caffey, who was up so well in 3rd position for a long time. And the unfortunate Italian has obviously hit something very hard indeed. You can see the debris from his car in front of him. And the marshal is frantically telling him to get away from the car. Out of danger, off the course. His car is in a dangerous position, but Caffey is okay as Prost goes through. And Ayrton Senna out of the race. Ayrton Senna has retired. No points for him.
Yes, well, they're removing the car properly now. There's the crane tied up. And now you see what happened. And that's his teammate De Cesaris just attacking Caffey, who's going quicker than him. And that's very much what we've come to expect from De Cesaris.
Well, I'm sure Caffey will be having a few words with him afterwards, but now it is Alain Prost leading. It is Patrese in 2nd place. Gerhard Berger that we're looking at is in 4th position behind Eddie Cheever 3rd. But Jonathan Palmer now, who started well down the field in, if I remember correctly, 14th position on the grid, has stormed his way up, and now on lap 63 in this race, Jonathan Palmer is actually in 4th position. So it is Prost leading, 42 seconds ahead of Patrese, then Cheever, Berger, and Palmer in 5th position, my apologies, with Christian Danner in the Real in 6th place. And there are the remaining positions. And Jonathan Palmer is challenging Gerhard Berger. There is the Ferrari, behind it the new 018 Tyrrell, which has scored points in every Grand Prix in which it has taken part since it was introduced, and Palmer goes through. Jonathan Palmer moves up ahead of Gerhard Berger into 4th position.
Berger into the pits, so Berger in some sort of trouble.
And unseen by you, but I can tell you, seen by us with joy and acclamation, Johnny Herbert who finished 4th in Brazil, is in the points here at Phoenix. He's in 6th position. Race order as Gerhard Berger comes in the pits, I'm sure to retire, because you can see there is no activity. Yes, Gerhard Berger is joining the other retirees, Nannini, Alboreto and Gugelmin, and this is now the battle for 2nd place. These ex-kartist antagonists, Riccardo Patrese in the Williams Renault is 2nd, right behind him the 3rd of these 3 cars, and the other 2 are coming up to lap Christian Danner. It's Eddie Cheever, and Eddie Cheever was last in 3rd position in the Italian Grand Prix last year. Don't forget, this is his hometown, Phoenix. He was born here. He wanted to put on a good show. Eddie Cheever has had an awful season this year by his standards. He's had 2 7ths and an 8th, and now Patrese comes out and passes Christian Danner's Real. Cheever does the same thing. Not so very long to go now before the end of the first American Grand Prix at Phoenix.
Yes, there's really been a tremendous scrap between these two, as Murray rightly says, ex-kartists, and they used to spend a lot of their Sunday afternoons as kart drivers battling from a similar distance apart. But that was some 15 years ago or so. And Jonathan Palmer has pulled out of the race. Out of picture, and so has Andrea De Cesaris. So that moves Johnny Herbert up into a superb 5th place. Still, remember, suffering from those appalling leg injuries that he received last year at Brands Hatch, and still struggling to get enough pressure on the brake pedal.
And since the maximum time that a race can run is 2 hours, you can see that we are in the very closing minutes of it, with Prost leading.
And what I've just worked out is that if Prost slows down a bit, and remember he's got plenty of time, over half a minute on Patrese and Cheever, if he slows down a little bit, like 5 or 6 seconds, then he will be able to do 1 less lap than he would otherwise do, because if he keeps on at this pace, and that of course is Boutsen.
That's Thierry Boutsen taking Tarquini and moving up into the points. Boutsen, who had a terrible practice, and he's been charging up through the field, but Alain Prost is wisely not making any effort to get past them here. He doesn't want to risk anything happening and destroying his chances of winning his first Grand Prix of 1989 to get the 9 points he needs to take the leadership of the World Championship away from Ayrton Senna. And we're almost up to the 2-hour mark now.
We aren't quite, and you see Prost has now started another lap, and that, I'm certain, is a mistake by Prost, because they can still break down on the last lap, these cars, and there was no reason for him to have done this lap. That was unprofessional, probably badly informed by the team, but between him and the team, with their radio system, they certainly should have worked out that if Prost just waited only another 3 seconds slower on that lap, he would not be having to do it now.
And it looks as though Riccardo Patrese is going to finish 2nd for the 2nd race in succession and the 2nd Grand Prix in 2 weeks. He did it in Mexico, and it looks as though he's going to do it again, and it certainly looks as though Prost is going to win.
Yes, Prost, but he will have to complete this lap now. The rule being that the lap after 2 hours is up when the leader comes past us, when the flag should go out, and although this will be a very welcome victory for Alain Prost, it is to a certain extent a Pyrrhic victory, because although he had a good race and he was with Senna, even when Senna's car was healthy, there were problems with Senna's car, and so to him that will not be the resounding healthy victory that he desperately needed, really, for his confidence as much as anything.
Well, nevertheless, Alain Prost is within seconds of seeing the checkered flag from the flag waver on the gantry overlooking the course. There is the gantry on the right. There goes the checkered flag. Alain Prost has won the American Grand Prix, and Boutsen just gets 6th position as the McLaren mechanics again congratulate each other, and the bonus they'll be getting as a result of Prost's victory. So Alain Prost has got his revenge over Ayrton Senna. Victory for Nigel Mansell in Brazil, then 3 races in succession for Ayrton Senna, San Marino, Monaco and Mexico. McLaren have won for the 4th time in succession. They have added to their World Championship points. So, victory here at Phoenix for Alain Prost, with in 2nd place Riccardo Patrese ahead of Cheever, Danner, who was lapped, Johnny Herbert in 5th position taking 2 points, and Thierry Boutsen. And that means to say that in the World Championship, Alain Prost has taken the lead again from Ayrton Senna, with Riccardo Patrese up to 3rd position ahead of Mansell and Nannini down to 5th ahead of Michele Alboreto. In the Constructors' Championship, of course, McLaren with another 9 points have extended their lead, but Williams have moved up into 2nd place and Benetton into 3rd position ahead of Ferrari, Arrows and Tyrrell. But now for part 2 of the 1989 Grand Prix competition to celebrate the 25th running of a Grand Prix at Silverstone. Top prize is a trip for 2 to the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez in October, along with a visit to the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in July, with grandstand seats and full hospitality. Plenty of consolation prizes, including 4 pairs of grandstand tickets for the British race. Now, question 2 is simply who, where and when. Who, where and when. Part 3 in 2 weeks' time, along with details of how to enter. So, after the heat of Phoenix in 2 weeks' time, it's the 3rd successive long-haul Grand Prix in Montreal, Canada. The drivers love the circuit and Montreal. Join us there then to see it on Grand Prix.
Caesars Palace, Las Vegas.
I'm only doing what I enjoy doing, and that's competing, and that's boxing, and that's defeating. I love that. Money is very important, but to actually defeat Ray Leonard is more important to me than actually the dollar itself.
Good evening and welcome to Las Vegas. Caesars Palace behind me, now with a solid reputation as the mecca for World Championship boxing, stages another multi-million-dollar extravaganza. The rematch between Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Yes, there's big money for 2 exciting fighters who I suppose we could regard as old-timers. Sugar Ray Leonard is guaranteed $13 million, Thomas Hearns a mere $11 million. They met for the first time 8 years ago, and that was a truly memorable encounter.
The body doesn't have eyes, they don't see the punches coming. Oh yes, and just went past the whiskers there. Only just caught him on the chin. Leonard thought he'd won, threw his arms in the air, and he's got it as he wants now, isn't he? No question about that. In the 14th round, what a great turnaround this has been, and what a great fight. And Hearns is really struggling for dear life now. The referee poised, isn't he? It looks as though he might dive in and not wait for a knockdown. We'll see. Not fighting back now, Hearns. And it's all over. Davy Pearl says that's enough. I suppose a compassionate act.
Well, that classic was at welterweight. This time the clash is for the WBC Super Middleweight Championship, and each man will enter the ring a stone heavier. Hearns has suggested that Leonard's weight gain could be attributed to steroids. Well, that's a controversial jibe in the verbal skirmishes that have preceded the war, as they're labeling this fight. Well, the 30-year-old Hearns' credentials show he's won 4 world titles at different weights, 5 if you include the more obscure WBO division. He's been beaten 3 times, by Leonard in 1981, the 3-round demolition by Hagler in 85,
and the shock KO by Iron Barkley last year. Another setback and a traumatic one before the fight, the hitman learned that his younger brother Henry would be charged with murder. A straightforward build-up, though, for the 33-year-old Leonard. 5 world titles at different weights in a 12-year career. His one defeat by Roberto Duran was avenged in the next fight. And this fight makes him the biggest earner in the game. It brings his ring receipts to $90 million. So the scene is set for take 2 of Leonard versus Hearns. At ringside in the outdoor arena on the other side of this palace, Reg Guttridge and Jim Watt.
So the big return is on now, and if they were golfers, they could qualify for the seniors tournament. But when the bell goes, really the motivation is not the massive money that they're getting, it's definitely the victory here, because Hearns is obsessed by it. 12-stone division. Hearns came in at 11, 8.5, and Leonard right on the middleweight limit of 160, 11 stone 6. So they're well within the weight limit of 12 stone. Now, I wonder whether the moves would be sort of choreographed for them, having fought to the 14th round last time. That's now cut back, of course, championship fights to 12 anyway. Well, that brings the ooze, doesn't it, from this full crowd, 15,300 packed around the tennis court area of the famous Caesars Palace. So as we come up to the closing of the opening round then, Hearns trying to prod away with that left hand, and obviously Leonard really trying to throw the bombs, which goes to this, well over the top build-up, isn't it? The word war, they've called this right from the start. And as a lot of us know, not to be compared with the real thing. The old firm Emmanuel Stewart from the famous Kronk Gymnasium there in the corner.
Looking good. People are going to start pumping his arms a little bit more now, okay? Because you're breaking up his long tackles. Everything.
Set him up. Beautiful. And you see everything you can do in that round, just about you can do. You saw it.
Final words coming up for the third from the Hearns camp was work on that jab, the left hand, obviously. Should try and open up Leonard like that. In fact, really, the first fight doesn't have too much relevance when you look back at it, and there's a 28-pound span between Hearns' championships. He went right up to light heavyweight when he defeated Dennis Andrews. And he only weighed 10 stone 5 those days when he boxed Leonard. Now he's 11 stone 8.5. Trying to flick that jab out, and he's scoring with it, Jim, and that's why the judges had him ahead last time. I keep on referring to that previous fight, of course, but that was why they gave him he was more convincing actually at the start last time too, Hearns, than he is here. Not bad there though, was he?
Yeah, that was a good right hand lead. That's twice he's led with a right hand in each time that it's landed in the previous round. He hasn't done it very often, but I feel Hearns would have to put Leonard under more pressure. I think the pace is suiting Leonard more than Hearns.
Leonard is definitely going for the spectacular as only he can, and they really met each other there with a right hand punch, and that in itself is a real shock for Leonard. Down against Kevin Howard, down against Lalonde, and now against the man whom he really does dislike as the great enemy. In round 3 now, can the hitman bring it off?
This is where he must not be reckless. This is where Barkley knocked him out when he had Barkley all over the place. This is where he forgot his own defence and ended up in trouble. He mustn't do that again here.
I don't know how much control Leonard's got. He's a bit deceptive, and But that innocent look on his face, those sad eyes, it's a bit like watching with those little ears, like watching Bambi getting mugged here. You know, he's trying to take the play away now. That's the grit that I was saying that Leonard has always had. And he wants to trade with him now. Now that could be dangerous for Leonard. Well, no doubt now, Hearns ahead at the end of the third.
The good punch had already landed, overcome the second one. It was more of a stumble. The first right hand was far better than that one.
And we watch it again, the overhead. It actually came right behind the neck there, really, sort of a half rabbit punch. But you should say just prior to that, he caught him with the right hand chopping blow. And again here.
Yeah, the punch beforehand was a far better punch. That was the good punch. That one landed. Then I think we see Hearns showing off a little bit because he knew he landed a good shot. Then a glancing blow kind of stumbled Leonard onto the floor.
Fifth round then. So the early chess match thinking stuff is well over now, and just trying to land the big stuff then. Pretty obvious neither of them are looking to rely on points, Jim, are they?
Yeah, well, nobody really seems prepared just to let it all go, let the punches flow. It's all kind of single, a lot of thinking going on, a lot of feinting, single punch leads. But especially Hearns, he works better when he really lets it all flow.
Oh, that's it. He just flicked that right hand, and the left hook came in, and that was the first time that Hearns' knee buckled there. They splayed out a bit. Maybe that's what Leonard is waiting for now, to try and get his man really on the hook and see if he can finish it. Midway through the fifth.
See, once again, Hearns' chin doesn't seem to be as strong as a middleweight's chin's got to be, or a super middleweight as well tonight. The chin has always been the thing we thought may let him down. And it's let him down here.
Yeah, he's going to keep this fusillade going, Leonard. He won't let go of this fella, but can he last out this minute now? He's learning to hang on a bit now, Hearns. He didn't do that when they went to the 14th round last time. Oh, he's really picking those now. He's really doing a destructive job here, Leonard. Richard Steele just, there he is, prancing around, waiting to dive in, I suspect. But no, he's fighting back, Hearns. What a fight now. It's going to measure up this one, isn't it? The old trooper's pride has come back into it here.
Well, Hearns' courage has never been under question, but his chin certainly has. But he seems to have thrown off the early effect, still stumbling a bit, but he wants to be thinking about defence here.
Can afford to throw those long punches in. He did it against the Canadian Lalonde last time up, Leonard, and it worked. He applied a lot of pressure there, Jim, but it looks as though he's going to make this round all right, Hearns.
Well, it's not too often Leonard gets them on the hook and lets them off again.
A little friendly punch almost, and a smile from Leonard. What do you think of that? I'm back in the fight is probably what he was saying. Now then, Jim, there we are. We've got a real good picture of that in the centre of the ring. That was the left hook that did it, and they really did disobey him, the legs there. Seventh round. So Hearns' turn there to turn a left-hand jab into a left hook, and it worked. Well, what a fight it is, Jim, isn't it? Keeps turning about there. And Leonard, right above us here, is banging trouble. Can he ride this storm?
The Leonard's drop. Leonard dropped his hands and looked at the punches coming and just tried to slip them rather than block them. Although he was caught with good punches, he was in full control of his movements. But good punches there from Hearns.
One of the great qualities of Leonard has always been his ability to absorb a punch. When you think of the men he's been in with Duran twice, Hagler. It's really like sitting on a time bomb, Jim. You just don't know which way this is going to switch now.
See, this is where Hearns should really be letting punches flow. But even when he hurts Leonard, he's still relying on single shots.
And they get rooted to the canvas a little bit. They're trying to be flat-footed to get more weight into the punches. They're not springing around like they used to. Looked a bit spectacular there, but Hearns has got his elbows tucked in. Now there's a good example, you see. Not winning anything. There's often points for defence, but not too much in American boxing. So Leonard really now keeps on trying to take the play away, but he can't. He just hasn't got the old youth there to keep it going, Jimmy. He has to have a little breather.
Yeah, well, neither boy can sustain the pressure here. They can still fight in little spurts, but it's not really been a hot pace all the way through. It's been a thoughtful pace, a steady pace, but not really a hot pace.
So Richard Steele saying, behave yourself.
He's kicking his legs out now. Yeah. All right? All right. Close. All right. Eddie, check him out here good. Just look, nothing wrong. Just check. Put that sponge on there. Ray Charles, baby. Look, you move standing up too tall. Number one. Kind of too straight. Now listen, you got to get your body. Got to. Legs first.
11th round, and well, he rushed out sort of a la Lloyd Hunnigan there, but not quite. The referee did well, I suppose, Jim, but technically he was in order. The bell had gone.
He wasn't in order. The bell had sounded yet. The referee had no right stopping him there.
Certainly Emmanuel Stewart sounded really desperate, I thought, in Hearns' corner, and saying you're going to throw this fight if you're not careful. He's been what saying that he may not have those powers of recovery late in the fight, and if Hearns doesn't know it, maybe his manager trainer does. Oh, what a long shot that was, and it got home. He's trying to pull away from him, but he went the wrong way to try and duck that one and ran right into that punch. He was a little bit flashy, Jim, in defence there, Leonard.
Yep, and he doesn't look any too pleased. He's looking rather despondent when he's got up. Hearns waits. Yeah, I was just going to say Hearns better wait for a bomb coming over here. But that's exactly what Hearns needs at this stage, a little bit more heart, just to raise the pace, keep Leonard under pressure.
2 counts in one fight, that's a great dent in Leonard's pride. And I would have thought, Jim, if he wins this fight, he wouldn't want to fight again after that.
Again, it's Hearns' right hand. The punch that's caused Leonard all the problems all the way through has been Hearns' right hand. He simply hasn't used it enough.
It's almost as if Leonard's saying, thanks for the rest, Tommy. Well, the punches added to the heat, Jim. I mean, they're really starting to punch themselves out a bit now. There's a great deal of tiredness showing there with the old horses blowing there.
Leonard expected to take control of this fight from the midway stage onwards, and it hasn't happened. There's another silly right hand from Leonard.
Countdown then for the end of the 11th, and they really traded hard here. In toe-to-toe, as it were. It's plenty of guts showing up there, and they just haven't got this youth to get around that ring. Jim in the replay then, and after this Hearns really slumped on the stool, but I mean he came so close again to keeping Leonard down. Bingo, there it is.
Leonard did silly things here, dropped his hands, tried to sway away and run into trouble. Silly things for Ray Leonard to do.
Jim, round to go. How are they going to go with this one if it does go to the points, as it looks a bit likely now, doesn't it?
Well, it's been so close. I feel myself leaning towards Hearns. The two knockdowns obviously must help his cause.
So the year of the underdog could continue, but what's going to happen now in this last 3 minutes? Well, he's found a bit of life again here, Hearns, Jim. It's almost like the first round he started this.
This is what Hearns should have been doing earlier on in the fight, putting Leonard under more pressure, because that is what Hearns is good at. He can't afford to take chances, but he should have been letting punches go.
If you say this is not the Leonard of old, Jim, it'd be a bit unfair, really, because Hearns is the one who's had the hard battles in recent times. He's the one who's had to climb off the floor. And is he going to have to do it again here? What a turnabout it could be.
I think Leonard feels he needs a knockout here. This one is very close. And as I said earlier, I think the two knockdowns and the fact that Hearns has really been setting the pace most of the way through. But here Leonard comes back again.
Midway through the last. Oh, this is some final round, aren't they? We won't see the loser of this fight again in the ring, that's for sure. Perhaps not the winner even. Has he got time to do it, Leonard? Hearns is the one struggling now. That's something he's learned in his old age, Hearns. He didn't do that when they first fought. Had he done so, he might have even recovered from that fight.
Can Leonard find the strength here just to land a couple of big punches? That seems all it needs.
Has he got the time as we're watching the clock there? Or if there is any doubts in the judges' minds, will this round make up for it? Total commanding round now for Leonard. Oh, nearly caught the referee as well there. So there it is, too late for a knockout, that's for sure, Jim.
Yeah, once again, Hearns' courage has seen him through in the last round here.
Well, they're both going to raise their hands, I would suspect. Hearns has it. They've lifted Leonard there. That won't influence the judges. They're busily marking their cards at this stage of the game. Now they've lifted Hearns as well. And as always, the ring just invaded there.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Caesar's Palace, here's the official scoring. Jerry Rock scores the bout 113 to 112 for Thomas Hearns.
One up for Hearns by 1 point.
Tommy Kazmarek scores it 113 to 112 for Sugar Ray Leonard.
Same score for Leonard, one each.
And Bobby Shirley scores the bout 112, 112. This bout is a draw.
And it's a draw. Well, what do you know about that?
Did you expect this kind of a fight?
Well, I always expect tough fights, so no matter what you guys be saying.
12 rounds?
Everyone said that Tommy was a shot fighter, and the fact of the matter was, he showed what he's made of.
Well, you said he was a shot fighter, too.
Short-winded, too. Short-winded.
Come here, Tommy. Tommy, you don't seem terribly disappointed by this draw.
Well,
this was something you wanted so badly.
I feel grateful for it because I worked hard for it. I thought I won a fight, but, you know, that's up to the judges, and I can't argue with the judges. I'm proud to have a draw instead of a loss of a record.
You are a gallant warrior. You both are. You both gave everything. You gave more than anybody expected you could possibly produce in this fight. I congratulate you both, no matter what the decision is. As I said, we saw it for Tommy Hearns, but nonetheless, a great, great battle. How about a rematch?
Go home this time, feeling and thinking about you all the time, but I can think about my woman sometime now.
A rematch, Ray? Have you had enough of this guy or not?
Well, I think we're both exhausted. Are you talking rematch, Tommy?
If you want, yes.
Let's go home and rest for a while.
I think we should go home and think about it and then come back and make a decision.
Yes, certainly both fighters have a lot to think about. It would seem that retirement is not uppermost in their minds at the moment. But there seems little doubt in the minds of such champions as Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Iron Barkley, Michael Nunn and Evander Holyfield that Hearns had won that fight. And that is the story that has been written by the majority of the world's press. From all of us here in Las Vegas, good night.
Enthusiasm. Goodbye from Rochester, New York.
Quiet, please, ladies and gentlemen. Going to Miss Wade. Miss Wade leads by 5 games to 4, 7, 7. Time, please. Time, please, ladies.
The Wimbledon magazine. There's no match.
On BBC One now, David Dimbleby and his team are on hand with the results at home and abroad in the European elections. There'll be instant reaction to the results and live reports from Brussels, Paris and Bonn. That's over on BBC One at the moment. Well, this is BBC Two as we go Grand Prix motor racing in Canada. .73-mile Gilles Villeneuve Island circuit in the St. Lawrence River. A circuit which is very tough on brakes and fuel consumption, but which the drivers like and respect. After Ayrton Senna's retirement at Phoenix, it's Alain Prost back at the top of the Drivers' Championship, the rejuvenated Riccardo Patrese up to third place, and Nigel Mansell down to fourth. And with McLaren's overwhelming dominance in the Constructors' Championship, their two drivers have now won more Grand Prix in their careers than all their rivals put together. With some pointed remarks, suggesting that it's time some of today's more experienced drivers retired, there's a lot of talent eager to take their places, especially 4 young Italians. Foremost amongst them is the quiet and intense Stefano Modena, ex-kart champion, ex-Formula 3000 European champion, and now with Brabham, for whom he finished a magnificent 3rd at Monaco. Alex Caffey started his racing career on motorcycles, impressed at the wheel of the unsuccessful Osella, which takes some doing, and now drives for the very professional Dallara team, 4th at Monaco and a man to watch. So too is Gabriele Tarquini, who in his first 4 drives for the little AGS team has scored his first World Championship point and taken 2 7th places. Nicola Larini hasn't scored yet, but as the man that Ferrari were going to substitute for Gerhard Berger, he's obviously got a promising future. At Phoenix, Lotus, the team founded by the charismatic and innovative Colin Chapman, celebrated its 400th Grand Prix. It won 79 of those races to give it 6 constructors and 6 drivers' championships, with some of the world's greatest drivers: Jim Clark, Jochen Rindt, Graham Hill, Emerson Fittipaldi and Mario Andretti. But sadly, Lotus is in the doldrums now, for despite a new car, 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet, and the combined efforts of some of Grand Prix racing's most talented and experienced people, they've yet to finish higher than 8th and are even in danger of having to pre-qualify after the British Grand Prix. And here in Montreal, an apparently demotivated Piquet only starts 19th on the grid, whilst his teammate Nakajima has failed to qualify. Things aren't all that much better for Ferrari, who in the past have been even more successful than Lotus. Grand Prix's most exciting team brilliantly won this year's first race in Brazil thanks to an inspired drive by Nigel Mansell. At Imola, they were stunned by Gerhard Berger's appalling crash, from which he's made an amazingly quick recovery. And their ingenious but immensely complicated semi-automatic gearbox has caused a 100% retirement rate, except for Brazil. But when they get it to work, and they will, they've got a winner. Nigel Mansell certainly thinks so, because he's already re-signed for 1990. For the first time since last year's Spanish Grand Prix 9 races ago, Ayrton Senna is not in pole position. At the head of the grid here in Montreal, it's the championship leader, Alain Prost. After an aborted start, there's been a second parade lap, and with the wet circuit drying fast, Mansell and Nannini have taken a chance and dived into the pits for dry weather tyres as the rest of the grid wait for the green light. Mansell and Nannini have gone round to rejoin. Now this is an incredible situation because they will be starting a full lap back, but on the move, and as the lights go to green, Prost is in the lead, and Patrese is coming up right alongside Senna, who closes up on Prost back in second position, and at the hairpin, it is Prost, Senna, Patrese, and Berger going round in the Ferrari and coming up to take the Williams, and it is still Prost, Senna. Let's see who's through in third position. Is Patrese still in third position? Then it is Berger.
I think there's a little bit of a nudge there at the second corner between Berger and Patrese, and it was well held by Patrese. The back swung out on his car, he caught it well. But to me, it's very surprising that Mansell and Nannini went out of the pits at all. I'm sure they would have been better off to have started off, because they can't have been more than halfway round the lap when the race was started. Why they didn't wait in the pits and take it from there, I don't know. And also very surprised indeed that a lot more other drivers didn't go straight in, and we gather that Pierluigi Martini also went into the pits and changed onto slicks, because this circuit is going to be in slick conditions. Well, it is already, and the whole of it will be in slick conditions within 2 or 3 laps.
With Prost leading, Senna second, and there out of the race is Martini. So he's changed the tyres, didn't do him very much good. And Sala came in and changed tyres. So the two McLarens, as we would have expected, in the lead. Prost leads, Senna second, Patrese third, Berger in 4th position. Boutsen is up into 5th place in the Williams, and you can see that there is then an enormous gap between the first 5 and the 6th car as the leaders accelerate away. And that's Cathy into the pits for a tyre change. There is Nannini, who changed his tyres. Prost behind him is leading. Senna is in 2nd place. The two of them pulling away from Riccardo Patrese, who you will see come up in a moment. He is in 3rd position on the Williams, and this is going to be an extremely confusing race. And Senna goes through. Ayrton Senna goes through on the 2nd lap to take the lead from Alain Prost, who goes into the pits. And as I was saying, this is going to be a tremendously confusing race to follow because of the tyre changes.
And I think Prost has done the right thing, and I think Senna will maybe pay for not following him into the pits.
Now, Alain Prost has rejoined the race on the 3rd lap in 17th position, and we will, of course, keep you posted. But how long can Senna keep going? How much of a lead can he build up before his wet weather tyres, with their very heavy tread, overheat and oblige him to come in through a reduction of grip? We are on lap 4 now. Senna leads, Patrese 2nd, Boutsen 3rd. In 4th position it is still Berger, 5th is still Alio. Up into 6th place has gone Jonathan Palmer. So 4 laps will have been completed, and Senna goes in. Lap 4, Ayrton Senna into the pits. Now, there should be, and very probably will be, a change of leader in terms of not just Patrese, who goes into the lead now, but Alain Prost going to be able to get up? And a scrap on the circuit, which you can see is part dry and part wet, and more dry than wet. Alain Prost is... We're waiting for Prost to come through now, but meantime, the Williams are leading a Grand Prix for the first time in 1989. And Riccardo Patrese, the surprise of 1989, with 2 second places and a record lap in Brazil, is in front as Berger challenges Boutsen and takes that 2nd place from him. Gerhard Berger up into 2nd place, and that's the highest he has been this season. Now, this is where the automatic gearbox of the Ferrari could well pay dividends, and you see the McLaren in the background in 4th position. And that gearbox could pay dividends because it is a much smoother change than you get with a manual box. And you can see how Berger on this, the 5th lap, is pulling away from Thierry Boutsen and closing up on Riccardo Patrese. I think before very much longer, we're going to see, for the first time since Brazil, a Ferrari in the lead, with this time Gerhard Berger at the wheel rather than Nigel Mansell.
Yes, Berger got himself into the perfect position then. He had the inside of the corner covered.
Gerhard going for the lead. And Prost has gone missing from our lap chart on the 6th lap. We haven't seen him go by. I haven't seen anything on our pictures. And now Ayrton Senna has got a problem because it is raining hard here in Montreal, and he is on slick tyres, whereas the leaders, the first 3, Patrese, Berger and Boutsen, are not.
Yes, and that's Gabriel Tarquini. He's off into the tyre wall there. The car doesn't look particularly heavily damaged. Looks like he just slithered off, and another slitherer we saw there just as we followed the leaders round. Here we see the replay of Tarquini's little brush with the tyre wall. And we seem to have lost Gerhard Berger. and I don't know where he's gone. We can't see the pits from our commentary position, and there is Gerhard Berger, so he was indeed lost. He was challenging Riccardo Patrese for the lead.
Meantime, Williams-Renault leads. Williams-Renault second. There is the leader. There is his teammate. He being Riccardo Patrese, number 6 in first position, and his teammate being the Belgian Thierry Boutsen in second place. And Senna is still running on slick tyres in very wet conditions, and he surely must be coming into the pits. But in third position, it was Senna until he's gobbled up by somebody, which is going to be happening any moment now with Derek Warwick up into fourth place.
I think probably what Senna is doing is, having made the change, is hoping that the rain will stop pretty quickly. The circuit still isn't too wet, and hope that he doesn't have to change back. But this race is turning really into a bit of a lottery, because the weather is so changeable, it's impossible to predict it, and luck is going to play a very important part in this race, as well as judgment. There we see fastest lap for Ayrton Senna, which is an important testimony to the conditions, because that tells us that using slick tyres, dry weather tyres in these conditions is definitely the right way to be. So Senna is already on the quickest setup, and he's just taken second place. He has passed Thierry Boutsen, and he certainly pulled away a large amount from him.
Senna is just 4 seconds behind Patrese, and I think he's bound to catch him, because and a tremendous traffic jam. And there's somebody off there. All I can tell you, it's a Minardi. Yeah, it's Sala, Louis Sala, the Spaniard, off.
Marshall just running onto the track to remove some of the debris. He's forgotten a bit of it.
That's a 150-mile-an-hour corner, and he slammed into the barrier very, very hard indeed. But mercifully, it was sideways, and it's raining again. So if Patrese can hang on those wet weather tyres, the gap between himself and Senna, no matter how brilliant Senna is bound to increase. Now, there is Cathey, who has passed Alio, and De Cesaris, who is following Alio. The two Delaras, and De Cesaris goes through.
Well, this really is a nightmare. I mean, it's raining 1 minute, not raining the next. What do you do? Because 1 minute you've got the flavour of the month if you're on wet tyres. The next minute you've got the flavour of the month if you're on dry tyres.
And off. That's Alio going off. Well, Alio, who crashed in the warm-up, has got problems here. And meantime, Derek Warwick is catching Senna. The gap between them is only 15 seconds now. Patrese has extended his lead over Senna, that you're looking at now in second position, to 10 seconds. So there's 25 seconds between Patrese, the leader, Senna, and Derek Warwick in third position. And Senna, you can see, he really has got problem. That will be a problem of grip. That's not a driver error, and he hasn't done himself any good picking up the wet there.
Well, it is a driver error, to be fair. I mean, he braked too late, and because in fairness, he knows the conditions are changing all the time, and therefore you have to leave yourself a little leeway. But it was a very small error. He controlled it well, got the car on the move again, and lost probably no more than 2 seconds in that manoeuvre.
Now you're looking at Cathey, De Cesaris and Larini, who are 4th, 5th and 6th. 4th Cathey, 5th De Cesaris, 6th Larini. I wouldn't like to be Cathey, because remember, at Phoenix, as Larini goes up to try to take the Dallara, De Cesaris drove into Cathey, and that's Boutsen into the pits. He was in 7th position. Derek Warwick is catching Senna all the time. Race order, lap 20. Patrese 10 seconds ahead as Boutsen goes out on wet tyres, you will notice. Now here is Cathey. You can see how the car, and De Cesaris is through, as you know, 4th, 5th and 6th. Cathey, De Cesaris, Larini going through and up into 5th position. So Larini up into 5th position in the Osella, the 1989 Osella, which his teammate Ginzani was not able to pre-qualify again. And this is and it's raining again. And I saw Warwick dart out of the picture there.
No, Senna has finally gone to the pits. I think Senna made for the pits, and sure enough, there is Senna. So he's finding he had to give best and go for wet weather tyres, but being on a fresh set of wets may not be too bad a thing.
Now look at this. This is Nicola Larini going through to take a place from the Dallara of Andrea De Cesaris, and therefore up into now third position. Temporarily I may be, because the real fight in this race in terms of wheel-to-wheel combat is between the two Dallaras of Cafe De Cesaris and Nicola Larini's Osella. And Larini goes past in third position. And that is Roberto Moreno. And well, the way...
I think that front wheel just fell off. So he'd slowed up because he could feel the wheel wobbling. And in fact, that wouldn't necessarily put him out of the race. He should be able to limp that car rather slowly back to the pits. He'll lose time, but it just looks like they need a new wheel and nut.
Off goes Caffey. That's Alex Caffey going off. What a race of happenings this is.
You can see the amount of spray being brought up now. Conditions really wet, and so no surprise that we saw Caffey having a little excursion there, because he is clearly on slick tyres, on dry weather tyres, and really it's now very definitely wet weather tyre situation. And there we see a spin. Caffey just emerging from yet another spin, and he is one of the ones on slick tyres, and this I think is a testimony to his relative inexperience, because he really should have been in and changed already.
And his team's relative inexperience. Dallara are only in their second full season of Grand Prix racing, the Scuderia Italia, but nevertheless they've made a real mark on Grand Prix racing with an excellent design, the original of which was done by Sergio Rinland, currently with the Brabham team. Race leader, here he is, Riccardo Patrese. It's now lap 26. He has led from lap 4. And it's Warwick in second place. It is Larini in third position. It's Senna in fourth place. It's Arnoux in fifth position. It's Dana in sixth position. And Senna is catching Patrese. And Caffey comes into the pits very definitely on the wrong tyres to take on a set of wets. Well, there have already been more pit stops here in Canada than I should think we've had in all the previous 5 Grand Prix put together. And it's certainly making a dramatic, exciting and interesting race out of it as Boutsen closes on Arnoux, looking for that 5th position. You're soon to see a change as the V10 Renault-powered Williams of Thierry Boutsen comes up to and passes veteran René Arnoux' Ligier with its V8 Ford engine, and unsurprisingly René Arnoux does not give way. Why should I can hear him saying to himself. But now they're approaching the fastest part of the course. This is where braking is of paramount importance, obviously, as they go through the chicane, past the pits to complete another lap shortly, and this is where Boutsen does get through. Belgian passes Frenchman, Williams passes Ligier, up into 5th place goes Thierry Boutsen. So the Williams cars of Patrese and Boutsen on this, the 30th lap in this 69-lap race, and backwards into the barrier goes one of the marches just as the picture changes. I can't tell you who it is. Yes, I can. It is Capelli. Capelli has slid in exactly the same place as Gabriele Tarquini went off, and that means to say there's even less runners.
They all know that this is going to be a race of attrition, and he who is still there at the end is bound to have a good chance, and so they should really be driving accordingly. This is one of the times in motor racing where you're not driving at an all-out 10/10 the whole time. You're trying to take stock of the conditions, trying to take it carefully and make sure that you're there at the end.
Senna up into 3rd place then by passing Nicola Larini, and sometimes people say to me, why do these Grand Prix drivers get paid such incredible salaries, millions of pounds for the top men? Well, you can see the answer now. Imagine trying to control over 650 horsepower in a very lightweight car on conditions like this. And Riccardo Patrese is now 19 seconds ahead of Derek Warwick in second position. So there's an interesting situation there. 22 seconds between Derek Warwick and Senna. The gaps are closing, and Senna, with Larini there down in fourth place, is the man to watch. I have to say, as of now, that if I was a betting man and had to put money on somebody, I would put it on Ayrton Senna. I remind myself that Riccardo Patrese is still on the original set of wet weather tyres, which may have, and will have, taken quite a beating earlier on in the race when the track was primarily dry, notwithstanding which he held his lead. But there is Boutsen spinning, a 360-degree spin. Thierry Boutsen coming up to try to pass the Dallara, lost it, but he didn't touch anything, and I have little doubt that he will just have to point it in the right direction, feed in the power, and blast away again. As René Arnoux now, number 25, being chased by Andrea de Cesaris. Well, this could be interesting. René Arnoux, the famous blocker, and Andrea de Cesaris, the famous pusher-offer, fighting for points and positions in the World Championship. I hope we stay with it. René Arnoux.
Absolutely, this is one not to miss, the blocker and the blinker.
And here they come. René Arnoux. And the gap between Patrese and Warwick has been reduced even further, with de Cesaris closing on Arnoux. Warwick is only 12 seconds now behind Riccardo Patrese, as de Cesaris bobs about immediately behind Arnoux. But of course it's terribly difficult, because the closer he gets, de Cesaris, to Arnoux, the more spray there is to look through, and he's going through.
And not many people get away with that so successfully. So well done, René Arnoux. He got along the inside and got through quite cleanly.
On lap 35 in this 69-lap race, and up into fourth position goes Thierry Boutsen, because you just saw Larini touring there. What a pity, because he was going extremely well, and Osella really do deserve some encouragement. Lap 35, race order. Riccardo Patrese leads, but he's being caught by Warwick. There is Patrese into the pits. Warwick is going to take the lead. I was right. Patrese's original set of wet weather tyres have worn. But the race order now is Derek Warwick leading. Up into second place on lap 36 out of 69 goes Ayrton Senna. Down to third position, having changed his wet weather tyres to another set, Riccardo Patrese. Fourth is Thierry Boutsen. In fifth position it is Andrea de Cesaris, and in sixth position it is René Arnoux. So there is Derek Warwick. For the first time since he drove for Renault, he is leading a Grand Prix. And that's Jonathan Palmer, off the circuit and out of 8th place. Both the Ferraris are out. Alain Prost was out very early on. And the lead is about to change, I think.
Yes, Senna, who's been catching Warwick really hand over fist for the last few laps, some 4 seconds a lap or more. Senna is now poised to pounce, but remember, he won't be in a hurry. The visibility is very poor running in somebody else's spray. He knows how much quicker than Warwick he can go, and he won't want to take any chances. He's driven a mature race and not taking any chances, but he's done that without a chance. He didn't show much patience at all.
Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet in the Yellow Lotus, charging to try and catch and get past René Arnoux, who is in 7th place. So Arnoux, with the rear of the Ligier twitching. Imagine what it's like in these cars. 650 horsepower behind the drivers. Very, very little grip, very light cars, minimum visibility, either because you're driving through a solid wall of spray or because your visor is misted up. And Derek Warwick out. Derek Warwick off course, having led the race and dropped to second position. now obviously out. Here is a replay of whatever happened. It seems to me he must have lost it, but we'll soon see. No, he just turned straight off the course. What appalling luck when he was higher up than he had been for years.
Yes, what a great shame, because the one thing you don't expect to have in the wet really is mechanical problems, because of course you're not able to use full power for a lot of the time. You can't strain the brakes or transmission in the way that you can on a dry track, and really that is a shame.
Piquet going through to get past René Arnoux, having sized up the Frenchman and where he could get past the Ligier. And now Ayrton Senna has got the same problem, but it should be a lot easier for him because he has got more power, much more power than Nelson Piquet. Last year, both... well, Senna goes through, Arnoux moves over and lets the McLaren through. Race order, lap 42, 69 lap race. Senna leads, Patrese second, Boutsen is in third place. So the Williams-Renault cars, running reliably and strongly, are well up again, only beaten by the single McLaren that is left with Alain Prost out of the race. In fourth position, it is Andrea de Cesaris. And Nelson Piquet is now up into fifth with René Arnoux sixth. Some of you may be wondering what became of Alain Prost in this race. Well, that's a very good question, because so are we. He disappeared after something like the third or fourth lap of the race, having led the race away from pole position, made his pit stop straight away at the end of the first lap, and then a couple of laps later he simply disappeared, and we've had no message as to what became of him. We didn't see his car parked anywhere. He just simply vanished. And that is Andrea de Cesaris, who is still in that fourth place, and only just in the fourth place, absolutely on the ragged edge, going off almost. Going off, a fine piece of rallycross there by de Cesaris, rather entertaining. He just seemed to, here we go, and we get a chance to see this masterly piece of rallycross driving yet again. Now he's no longer on the prepared surface, he's grass cutting, but to his credit, at least he kept the car straight, bounced it around a bit, and continues almost with undiminished speed. Now we're going to see something interesting. Piquet is catching Danner, who is in 8th place. Piquet's 5th, and Danner is the slowest man of these four, and you can see already that Patrese is up with Piquet, Boutsen is up with Patrese. They're all three of them catching Danner. Piquet is passing the German now and is through. Boutsen goes through. Thierry Boutsen up into 2nd place ahead of Patrese. So Boutsen took his opportunity. Now you see Piquet taking Danner. This is a replay. You see Boutsen coming up on Patrese, who feeds in the power. Boutsen has got the line and the momentum, goes through and takes 2nd position from Riccardo Patrese on lap 63 in what we expect to be a 68 lap race. And Senna stopped. Senna is in trouble. And could this be fuel? The speed was marginal for the race. Senna out of the race with only 2 or possibly 3 laps to go. What a sensational development. For the 2nd race in succession, Ayrton Senna retires, but this time in the lead. Thierry Boutsen comes out of the last corner of the last lap to win the Canadian Grand Prix, his first ever victory. Very shortly, he's coming down now, and his heart must be beating wildly, because he knows that there's only a few hundred yards left now between himself and not only his first victory, but his first ever 9 points as a result of it. The Williams has, as far as I know, it sounded crisp, and there he goes. Boutsen has won the Canadian Grand Prix, and an exultant wave of the hand, an enormous fillip for Williams and for Renault. Here is Patrese coming in to make it not only first, but also 2nd for Williams and Renault. Patrase's 2nd place in succession. A really superb achievement by this veteran. De Cesaris 3rd, Piquet 4th, Arnoux in 5th position. In 6th place, Alex Caffey. after a tremendously exciting and historic Canadian Grand Prix, as a result of both the McLarens retiring, Prost still leads the World Championship from Ayrton Senna. In third position, it's still Riccardo Patrese, but up into fourth place goes Thierry Boutsen, the Williams-Renault's third and fourth, and down to fifth place goes Nigel Mansell. And in the Constructors' Championship, the fact that both Williams finished and neither McLaren finished means that the massive gap between McLaren in the lead and Williams in second place has been dramatically reduced.
Today the car finished the race without any problem. I made one mistake. I spun once on the track when I had got a lot of aquaplaning. The track was very wet. Recovered from that, luckily, without touching anything, and then carried on as hard as I could. Every lap was win or lose. Every lap was crash or win. So I did everything I could to go as fast as possible during the race, and I was lucky to finish first.
And now for the third and final part of the 1989 Grand Prix competition to celebrate the 25th running of a Grand Prix at Silverstone. Top prize is a trip for two to the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez in October, along with a visit to the British race at Silverstone in July with grandstand seats and full hospitality, and plenty of consolation prizes, including 4 pairs of Silverstone grandstand tickets. A quick reminder of the first 2 questions. Question 1, who, where and when? Question 2, the same. Who, where and when? Now, question 3. Who is this winning the British Grand Prix at Silverstone and what year? Question 3, who and when? Entries should be sent on a postcard to Grand Prix Competition, Silverstone Circuit, P.O. Box 24, Silverstone, Towcester, Northants. Closing date is July the 1st. Well, the Grand Prix scene really came alive today, and in 3 weeks' time it returns to Europe for the French. And you can see there Maurizio Gugelmin's car just behind the gates, waiting to start from the pit lane. Cruel luck for the Brazilian. Maurizio hasn't been having at all a bad season. He was third in Brazil, 9th equal in the championship. Now you can almost feel the tension rising at Silverstone because the grid is being cleared. That is Ivan Capelli, the Italian, in the March Judd, Gugelmin's teammate. And Capelli is in 8th position on the grid. The mechanics, the team managers are walking away from the grid, and soon there will be that lonely, isolated moment for the drivers when they are all on their own before the race has begun. This is not the beginning of the race, this is the parade lap.
Yes, and this really is a moment of relaxation for the drivers, relaxation from tension. Sitting on the grid is a very tense moment with everybody surrounding them, feeling fairly confined in their space in the car, and now they're let loose and they can go around slowly and just work some of the tension out. So the pole man, Ayrton Senna, you see there leading the field away. He's going fast at the moment to warm his tyres up, but he will then slow right down as you look down on Silverstone Circuit. And one of the characteristic of Silverstone is that it is a convex piece of land, which means that pretty well all the corners the road falls away, so grip isn't fantastic, but above all it's very lacking in landmarks for the drivers. So in the normal way you don't necessarily appoint particular landmarks for your corners, for pointing the car. So you are particularly bereft of anything to look at. And now we see Senna in the front slowing the field right down now, and having another practice start there. And he's going through Club Corner now, which is the last major corner on the lap, because he's now approaching Abbey Curve, and that's a flat-out kink. And then we have braking right down to the chicane, to the first or second gear chicane. And at this point he will now go very slowly indeed to try and bunch the field up behind him, because when he arrives on his grid position, he has got to wait until the whole field is in position behind him, and he doesn't want to wait any longer than he has to, because these cars don't have fans as our road cars do when they go through. They depend on moving for their cooling system. They can't sit at traffic lights for long, and also the driver keeps the car in gear, so the clutch is, if not dragging, it is at least having some frictional effect. It's getting hotter and hotter while they wait. And Senna does another practice start, so does Prost behind him. There's Mansell in the Ferrari pulling up behind, and he's now going to slow it right down.
Senna on the left, Prost on the right. Behind Ayrton Senna in the Ferrari is Nigel Mansell. Behind Prost is Berger. Behind Mansell is Patrese, and behind Berger is Capelli, with a gap from Maurizio Gugelmin's place. And sprinting into the pit lane goes Nicola Larini in the Osella. He struck a problem on that parade lap, and he too will be starting probably late from the pit lane. But the 65 lap 1989 Shell British Grand Prix is almost go. Go it is. Prost gets an excellent start. Alain Prost noses ahead of Ayrton Senna as they go into Copse. In third position it's Nigel Mansell. In fourth position it is Gerhard Berger. Round the right-hander at Copse. Now on towards Maggots, the sweeping left-hander, and then to Beckett's. So the two McLarens, the two Ferraris.
And Senna really characterised the difference between the two McLaren drivers, because Prost made the best start. He was in front, Senna had the inside line, and he was bravest into the first corner. So Senna leads with Prost right behind him.
And then, as you can see, Nigel Mansell, Gerhard Berger, the two Williams, Alessandro Nannini and Pierluigi Martini has come right up in the Minardi. It's Senna, Prost, Mansell, then Berger. They go round the right-hander at Club, up towards Abbey, there it is, and Senna is already pulling out a lead. This is an incredible first lap.
And Larini has got away from the pit road, we understand, and Mansell is looking very threatening behind Prost. Mansell certainly was climbing all over the back of Prost's car as they came up the straight.
So, watch the Ferrari. Here is Senna. Lap 2, Prost, Mansell, Berger right up tight with him. Then the Williams. Patrese in 5th position. Now it's Boutsen in 5th position, Patrese in 6th place, then Alessandro Nannini in 7th place. Martin Brundle is up into 8th position. That is a tremendous first lap from the Brabham Judd of Martin Brundle. Now here they come, and Prost is closing with Senna. Now Alain Prost is certainly not letting Senna get away, but the two McLarens are edging away from the Ferraris. This is lap 2, 65 lap race. And Prost drifts out a little onto the rumble strip. Nigel Mansell still holding station. And you can see that Boutsen in 5th position is right behind the Ferrari of Berger.
Yes, and already the McLarens, Mansell drove a tremendous charging first lap, but already he's falling back that little bit, struggling to hold on to Prost. And Prost, in fact, was threatening Senna down the Hangar Straight then, but got himself a little bit wrongly positioned on the circuit.
Well, the gap between Ayrton Senna that you're looking at in the lead, the man who won the British Grand Prix last year, and his teammate Alain Prost, is just over half a second. Nothing in it, but Prost's second lap was faster than Senna's. Mansell is lapping at the same speed as Senna at the present moment. There is Boutsen, Patrese, Alessandro Nannini in 7th position, the leading V8 powered car. That's the Benetton with the new Ford V8 engine. Down the hanger straight, Senna, Prost, Mansell, Berger, Boutsen, Patrese, Nannini, the first 7. Into Stowe corner. In 8th position, it's still Martini. 9th is Nelson Piquet. Look for there is the yellow Lotus in the background. Nelson Piquet, who loves this fast, open, sweeping Silverstone circuit, has got a lot to prove in 1989, and it looks as though he's setting about doing that here. As into the chicane go the McLarens, the Ferraris, the Williams, the first 6 from 3 constructors, then Nannini, Martini, Piquet, over the line goes Ayrton Senna to complete another lap, and that is the end of lap 3. Ayrton Senna now leading by 8/10 of a second. He's lapping 3/10 of a second faster than Alain Prost. Look at the crowd. Perfect. That looks like Nicola Larini to me, parked behind the barrier. Yes, out of the British Grand Prix goes Nicola Larini on lap 4. There's Nelson Piquet. Now we're with Nelson Piquet. And in front of us is Pierluigi Martini's Minardi, the car that's enormously improved since they've got to the fast circuits.
And you see there the sparks coming from the back of Larini's car. Don't be alarmed, because that is just the car at the bottom of the chassis touching on the road, because the aerodynamics of these racing cars is tremendously dependent on running it as close as possible to the ground. Now you see Piquet there, and Piquet using the slipstream, getting a tow, getting alongside, and now we've got a braking battle, and our boy wins it. So Piquet past Martini and using the classic slipstream technique on the straight.
And into the pits this early in the race goes Gerhard Berger. It looks as though the Ferraris have got a problem after all, because this is only lap 5. Berger's Ferrari in, off comes the coving.
Yes, and the fact that that's come off makes it look like it's fairly terminal. He had trouble this morning in the warm-up, and he's obviously stayed with the same car rather than going for the spare, and it looks like the gamble has failed to pay off, because that looks pretty terminal for Gerhard Berger.
But now you're looking at the battle between Martini and Capelli. There is Pierluigi Martini, who you passed with Nelson Piquet. He's now in 8th position. Behind him in the march is Capelli in 9th position, and you can see how Nelson Piquet is pulling away, and Capelli is going through. So Martini has now lost 2 places, and the man to watch in this race at the present moment is there he goes, Ivan Capelli, with Senna now on lap 6 out of 65, just under half distance, and into the pits there. It's Senna leading, Prost 2nd, Mansell 3rd, Boutsen in 4th place, Patrese is 5th, Nannini is in 6th position, Piquet is 7th, into the pits goes the Minardi. And that was fairly obvious then after Piquet had gone through. There is Jonathan Palmer. He's in 17th position at the present moment. We're on lap 6. The fastest man on the circuit at the present moment is Senna. And the good news is that Larini is in fact still running. Roberto Moreno was the man who was hiding behind the barrier with his basically yellow Coloni, and now on lap 6 out of 65, as you look at Derek Warwick, who is in 16th position, coming towards us. His teammate Cheever did not qualify. Senna is leading Prost by 6/10 of a second. Mansell is 1.6 seconds behind Senna, but is now the fastest man on the circuit. Mansell is speeding up. 1 minute 13.8 is the fastest lap that we've had so far in this race. That's 4 seconds outside Mansell's own lap record in the Williams Honda, just under 50 miles an hour. But as Jonathan Palmer goes round, and his teammate Jean Alesi, who has replaced Michele Alboreto permanently, here are the first 3
on lap 7. And there is the man who's catching them, Mansell. And he's lapping some 0.3 of a second faster than both the McLarens. Senna leads, Prost second, Mansell third. An enormous gap now, 4 seconds between Mansell in third place and Boutsen in fourth place. Berger is still in the pits. There he is. Fifth is Riccardo Patrese, so the Williams are going well. And Nigel Mansell now, the man who won here at Silverstone in 1986 and 87, who finished an inspired second in the Williams Judd last year, is on his way.
Yes, there's no doubt that Mansell is tremendously pumped up. He's charging after the McLarens. The Ferrari car has been getting better and better all year. It's still probably not as good as the McLaren, but Mansell is making it talk for him.
And he's now significantly faster than the McLarens. He's just gone round in 1 minute 13.7 compared with Prost 1 minute 14.1. You may say that 0.4 of a second is not very much, and it isn't, but it's enough to see Nigel Mansell inching up on the twin McLarens ahead. Senna is going to have a major problem soon, not only with Prost but also with Mansell. Boutsen is still in fourth position, Berger exiting the pits. Fifth is still Patrese, sixth is still Nannini leading the V8 powered cars. In seventh position is Piquet as we look down from the helicopter onto the battle. On the right, under the bridge, into Bridge Corner, the new complex at Silverstone. Senna, Prost, Mansell, first, second, third, McLaren, Ferrari, V10, V12.
And when you compare the two McLarens and the Ferrari, you have to say that Nigel Mansell is doing a heroic job. They've pulled right away from the two Williams Renaults, which we look at now, followed by Nannini. Capelli going through there at the back of what effectively now is the leading group. But these three, well, not these three, but Senna, Prost and Mansell have broken away. There's some 8 seconds clear of the next man. And Mansell is making a race of this. The two McLarens are also racing each other, but they are the same team. And Mansell getting closer and closer and starting to threaten.
And he is consistently lapping faster than both the McLarens, as you can see by the fact that he is catching them. But as you watch him gain on an Alain Prost in second position, Boutsen is still fourth, Patrese fifth, Nannini sixth, Piquet in seventh place, in eighth place Capelli, ninth is Alio, 10th is Modena, 11th Alesi and 12th Bernard. And Gerhard Berger has rejoined the race with a new engine management chip. Nigel Mansell in third position for Britain. And as far as the other British drivers are concerned, Martin Brundle is in 14th place. Jonathan Palmer is in 17th place. One position behind Derek Warwick, who is 16th. Out of Chapel, down the Hangar Straight. This is 185 miles an hour as they come down to Stowe. Look at the gap between Mansell in third place, Boutsen in fourth. Behind Boutsen, you can see it's pretty close. Patrese, Nannini, behind Nannini, Nelson Piquet, and the gap between Nannini and Piquet is only just over a second as the Brazilian sets about catching the Italian in his Benetton and trying to keep ahead of the 8th place man, Ivan Capelli. 9th Alio, 10th Modena. There is the lead, and now Mansell is really showing the nose of his Ferrari to Alain Prost. Down now with another lap completed in a moment. Over the line they go now. And Mansell has just again done the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 13.6. 145.2 miles an hour. The winner in Brazil, second in France. The crowd is absolutely racked with attention, and small wonder. This is a great fight for leadership.
Yes, and behind the leaders we have a couple of performances that are out of character, in that Boutsen is leading Patrese, and obviously his win in Canada is still firing him up because he drove very well at Paul Ricard. He was a new man there at the French Grand Prix, and he's leading his teammate Patrese in this one. And then behind them we have Piquet, who has taken a new lease of life, and the only possible explanation for that is that he's been reading the newspapers.
We're on lap 11 now, 65 lap race, just about 1/6 distance. The British and Mansell's really charging. You can see he's right on the ragged edge there as he went into the left-hander. Now out of the right to complete another lap. Let's see what his lap time was as Senna crosses the line. Prost, and now Mansell, and this time Mansell is marginally slower, and Prost is quicker on that lap. 1 minute 13.6. Two McLarens lead, Ferrari second, Mansell going very wide over the curves, and I remind you that we need to watch the McLarens very carefully to see whether that transfers, and Senna spins! Senna spins it off, and Prost takes the lead, and Senna is going to be out of the British Grand Prix. He will never get back onto the circuit now. He is dug right down, and in yet another Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna is out.
Well, that is the most extraordinary mistake. That really woke me up, because I just didn't expect that. Ayrton Senna, we've always felt, was vulnerable to error, vulnerable to pressure, and now we have a look at it again, and let's try and see what Senna does wrong. And he just turned it in too quickly. There was no sign of oil on the circuit or any problem at all, and that really was a surprise. We thought that he got out of that, but we always suspected him capable, and Senna has thrown it away in a big way, and this must be a fantastic mental fillip for Alain Prost, who has been very beleaguered by Senna's mental dominance over him recently, and suddenly the boot is very much on the other foot.
A quite incredible situation. Ayrton Senna failed to finish in Phoenix and France. He was only 11th in Brazil. He's not going to finish in Britain because he is out of the race. And now it's a two-man battle for the lead between Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell. McLaren leads Ferrari. They're coming up to lap the tail-enders. Boutsen has moved up into third position, but he's nearly 11 seconds behind Mansell. Fourth is Riccardo Patrese, his Williams-Renault teammate. Nannini is in fifth place and Nelson Piquet sixth. Let's look at this historic moment again as Ayrton Senna goes off.
And he just swapped the ends of it. I'm still in shock because that was not a pressure situation. There was no reason for him to make that mistake, and he basically just turned the car in too hard, and it was a really elementary mistake, which was a huge surprise.
Let me just throw a wild one at you, James. New McLaren transverse gearbox, might it have locked up?
Certainly, I accept that, because certainly around the back, their new gearbox, the suspension hangs on that as well, and maybe something went wrong with the car, but looking at it, I didn't see anything fall off or anything go wrong, and it really looked just like an error, but I certainly, you know, in deference to Senna, I say that certainly something may have gone wrong with the car, because it looked too simple.
That's Larini sandwiched between the leader Prost and the new second place man Mansell. Larini moves over, Mansell goes through the gap now at about 1.3 seconds. Meantime, Martin Brundle has gone into the pits. As you can see, Boutsen is in third position. You can see that the gap 14.8 seconds between Boutsen and Prost. In fourth position, Patrese. So the Williams-Renaults may be slower, but they are in third and fourth positions. Nannini is in fifth place, the man who was running second in the French Grand Prix in the new Benetton until the suspension collapsed. And Mansell is now challenging and charging again. The gap has come down. We are on lap 14, just completing it. An utterly despondent Ayrton Senna, who watches the possibility of Alain Prost yet again getting 9 points, while Senna yet again fails to score.
Well, funny enough, his body language and the expression on his face rather suggests that it wasn't down to him, so maybe something did fall off the car. He looks rather relaxed for a man who's just thrown it away, and I say it looked like that to us, but then of course when something falls off a car it always does look like that. So we see Prost ducking out of the toe, going past the Cesaris, and Mansell still hounding him every inch of the way. but I think maybe something did fall off Senna's car, because he doesn't look like a man who's just thrown it away of his own accord. He looked a lot more despondent with himself.
And already, as you watch Prost and Senna in what is turning out to be an epic battle for leadership, they have lapped virtually everybody in the race. Such is the pace of the McLaren and the Ferrari that all the other competitors are a lap behind. Over the line goes Prost. That is the completion of the 14th lap. He now leads Nigel Mansell by 1.1 seconds. Mansell is charging again, 1 minute 13.4, 1/10 of a second faster than Prost on the last lap. And the gap between Mansell and Boutsen is 16 seconds. Patrese third, Patrese fourth, Nannini fifth, and Piquet sixth.
And the lap times are coming steadily down now. They're going quicker and quicker, these two that we're looking at now, because the fuel load is coming down. And now look at that gap, and they're just coming into sight now. And that is a back marker that we've lapped. And here are the two Williamses battling for third, with Nannini right on Patrese's tail. Boutsen leads that battle. Patrese, Nannini we look at now. And Nannini certainly in the new Benetton Ford, which is a car that has showed a lot of promise in the French Grand Prix in its debut, and he is now looking to move up. And there is Andrea de Cesaris, relieving everybody else of the problem of having him on the circuits and doing everybody a favour.
And I'm delighted as you watch Patrese challenging Boutsen and taking from his teammate third position as they come through with Nannini in fifth place. And into the pits comes Capelli. Ivan Capelli is obviously, I think, retiring. And look at this battle. My goodness, that's Patrese third, Boutsen fourth, Nannini in fifth position. And I'm delighted to pay homage to Nelson Piquet and the Lotus, the Frank Durney designed, Judd-powered Lotus of Nelson Piquet. Larini, tyre change. His Pirelli tyres, he's decided that he needs a new set, and in he comes. And out he goes. And out too goes, that's Maurizio Gugelmin in the pit. There is the march. And now Piquet, and behind Nelson Piquet there is Alliot. Now, here is an interesting point. Philippe Alliot is in 7th place, and the Lola Lamborghini team, as you watch Nelson Piquet in 6th position, are desperate for a World Championship point to avoid having to pre-qualify in the second half of the season.
And we just spotted that Capelli was missing from the lap chart, and we saw just a glimpse then of a car that looked like a March, so it looks like we've lost Capelli with a breakdown. And I, like you, Murray, am delighted to pay homage to Nelson Piquet. I'm particularly pleased that one could have been of help.
Here's Boutsen. He is fourth. And that is Andrea de Cesaris. His teammate Alex Caffey failed to qualify. De Cesaris's Dallara sadly has failed to last very long. But now the quite incredible Riccardo Patrese, who seems to get faster and faster and better race by race, notwithstanding the fact that he's driven in more Grand Prix than anyone else, is pulling away in third position from his teammate Boutsen fourth, who's got Nannini in the new Benetton Ford in 5th position behind him, and Nelson Piquet right up tight with the Benetton in 6th place. Alliot is still 7th, Alesi is 8th. Now we're riding with Nelson Piquet in 6th position, chasing Alessandro Nannini's Benetton. Up towards the left-hander at Abbey. Now, this is 165 miles an hour. He's going down through the gears now for the left-hander and then the right at Bridge Corner. Nannini gets a little closer on braking into the right-hander, out for another lap. Ahead of us is Boutsen in 4th position, Nannini in 5th place. This is Piquet in 6th position, and he's coming down to Copse now.
And that gives you a very good impression of just how much power these cars have, because as they came out of that corner, you saw how Nannini stretched the gap, and that was because he was able to hit his throttle maybe half a tenth of a second earlier than Nelson Piquet, and that's how big a gap it opens. These cars have really serious acceleration. As we go out onto Hanger Straight, this is where Piquet will be looking to be close, but he's not close enough. But Nannini is certainly threatening and trying to get in position. And here we have Nannini threatening Butson. We have Piquet sitting absolutely in position, ready to pick up any errors that they make in front, any sort of tanglement. And a good three-car battle.
And if you're wondering what's happened to Nigel Mansell, don't worry, because I have eyes all round my head as Nannini tries to challenge. Mansell is still behind Alain Prost. In fact, the gap has increased a bit. It's 2 seconds now. Prost is lapping in 1 minute 13.3. Mansell's last lap 1 minute 13.9. So he lost 7/10 of a second. That's bad news. Prost, as you can see now, is lapping at nearly 146 miles an hour, leading Mansell. Patrese in third position, 22 seconds behind the leader. There is the leader, Alain Prost in the sole McLaren with Senna out. You can see the increased gap between the McLaren and the Ferrari. And just let's keep an eye on the gap between Mansell's second and Patrese's third. 22 seconds. Boutsen, Nannini and Piquet still fighting for fourth place.
Yes, Prost with Mansell hounding him are really the class of the field. They're pulling away a big gap now to third place. The sad news is, and a big shunt, that looks like Patrese. That is Patrese with just about everything knocked off the car. And we didn't see how it happened, but for sure that was a big impact. And Mansell's starting to struggle to stay with Prost. We've got a good race up front, but Mansell, who's really doing, and Patrese is all right. Look, he's out of the car and looks fine.
One shattered Williams, and Nigel Mansell is slowing. I don't like the look of this one little bit. The gap now is 2.7 seconds between himself and Prost. Boutsen is up into third. Nannini is up into fourth. Piquet is up into fifth position. Let's have a look at what happened to Riccardo Patrese as he goes into the right-hander, completely loses it, just like Senna, slides right across the chips and into the barrier.
Yes, and what made that a big impact is, if you notice, the car got launched and he never touched the gravel. That gravel pit that he crossed, we see it again from yet another angle, but just watch how the car takes off. Right, he spins it now, he loses control of it, and watch now, the car doesn't even touch the ground, and that's why the impact is so big. That gravel pit that he hurdled would have decelerated enormously, and that was a big impact shunt, and so and there he is, and he looks jolly fine to me. So Riccardo Patrese not even looking terribly shocked. The sad news is, and there is Frank Williams in the pits, he will have heard what's happened on the radio, and he's looking, as you can imagine, expressing himself just hugely disappointed. But the fact of the matter is, up front, that the pressure, I think, finally is getting to Mansell. His tyres, I'm sure he's shot his tyres a little bit too hard, and now they're in the traffic.
Yeah, Nannini in the pits for tyres, we didn't expect that. Meantime, Nigel Prost, as you can see, is lapping people. Nannini's tyre stop completed. He blasts out onto the circuit. He is down to fifth position. Piquet is up into fourth place. Boutsen third. Mansell second. There is Prost leading. And the gap between Prost and Mansell on lap 21, and we are now on lap 22, was 2.1 seconds. But Mansell has speeded up as they approach the traffic, and he was 6/10 of a second faster than Prost, who's now coming up to the Ligier of, it looks like, Olivier Griard. Indeed it must be, because René Ardoux did not qualify. So Prost, yes, up to Griard, who is in 13th place. Now look for the Scarlet Ferrari of Nigel Mansell. This is his opportunity to close. And if Mansell can thread his way through the tail-enders faster than Prost did, he will be able to get closer to the McLaren. Now, Alain Prost has got to take Derek Warwick, who is in 12th position. Here's the better Derek Warwick in the Arrows Ford in 12th place, about to be lapped again by Alain Prost's McLaren Honda. And the brilliant Frenchman on his way to yet another Grand Prix victory, effortlessly pulls out of the slipstream, and look how close Mansell is. But Mansell has still got to get past Warwick, he's still got to get past Grille, he's still got to get past Martini. And what that did demonstrate very well was just how fast, how powerful the McLaren Honda is, because poor Derek Warwick was passed by Prost then as if he was standing still. And that is nothing that Derek can do. That is not an aspersion on his driving ability, because that was just pure power down the straight. Lap 24, race order. Alain Prost leads, Mansell takes Martini and laps him. He's 2.025 seconds behind Prost, or was at the end of the lap. And still in third place, it's Thierry Boutsen. Nelson Piquet fourth. He's only once been as high as that this season. Alio is up into the points, the desperately needed points. Fifth place in the Lola Lamborghini. And the incredible Jean Alesi, who did so well in France with fourth position, is in sixth place in the British Grand Prix. That is Jonathan Palmer, his British teammate. And Mansell has got traffic problems, but he's going to get past Warwick now to burst through. So Mansell has cleared that glut of traffic. We'll see now if he's lost any time to Alain Prost, who got through it a bit ahead of him. And we see yellow flags. And there's Boutsen with Piquet hounding him. Piquet looking really fired up, looking like a different man to the one we've seen all this year, the jaded thing. And Boutsen and Piquet making his challenge, coming under the bridge, braking, and this is quite clearly Piquet's best race of the year by a long, long way. Indeed it is, because Nelson Piquet this season has not finished higher than fourth, and that was an unusual result for him. But Boutsen is fighting back, hanging on to the Brazilian's Lotus Judd. So it's a McLaren Honda V10 in the lead. It's a Ferrari V12 in second place. It is a Judd V8 powered Lotus up into the podium position for the first time this season, with Nelson Piquet at the wheel. And there are all sorts of rumours about Lotus being in all sorts of trouble, and it's really good to see this great team who won so many Constructors and Drivers' Championship back into contention again. They got a good balance after practice. They tested again the Tickford 5-valve V8 engine in practice, but decided to stay with the standard Judd. And now Alain Prost on lap 26 is 4.8 seconds ahead of Mansell. He's lapping half a second quicker than the Ferrari. You can see there the gap between Prost, the leader, and Piquet that we're riding with is getting on for 40 seconds. Boutsen right behind Piquet in fourth place. Nannini about 20 seconds behind them, fifth. Gugelmin in sixth position, and in seventh place it's Philippe Alliot. Eighth is Alesi, ninth Modena, 10th Nakajima, 11th Sala, 12th Derek Warwick, and Prost has now lapped everybody up to the 11th place man, Louis Perry Sala in the Minardi, and here is the leader.
You say rumours about Team Lotus, Murray, but the fact of the matter is they're obviously in a fairly healthy state, because their principal, Fred Bushell, managed to stump up with $500,000, and he's walking about here a free man. So obviously they're not in a bad financial state anyway.
And there is Prost, 4.3 seconds. He's starting to inch into the lead of Prost, because Mansell, having cleared the tail enders and lapped them, is starting to catch Nakajima, Piquet's teammate. And Nakajima is in 10th position. Prost, of course, has lapped him. Mansell is going to do so very shortly. 4.3 seconds is the gap. There is Prost in the red and white McLaren, Nakajima in front of him.
And you see then a tear-off came off one of the visors. There was a bit of plastic floating about on the track there, and that the drivers wear on over their visors. They put several layers of strips on that as they get dirty and oily, they can rip it off and just throw it away.
And as I watch for the second race in succession, one McLaren and Alain Prost taking Nakajima. We're riding with Nakajima. You'll see the McLaren, there it is, as it appears in front of the Japanese driver Satoru Nakajima. Alain Prost goes through and over the line to complete another lap now, to complete his 27th lap. Let's see what the gap is. There is Prost. Here is Nigel Mansell. The gap is coming down. It's 3.8 seconds. It was 4.3 seconds. Prost has just lapped in 1 minute 14.1. Mansell has lapped half a second quicker, 1 minute 13.6. There is the proof.
Yes, and Mansell is really holding on well, without any doubt. It's a struggle for him. You can see that his car was a little bit nervous there as he turned in, as Emmanuel Pirot in the second Benetton, in for a tyre change and a bit of a clean-up and a polish-up. And Mansell is really charging well, because it's not easy. He's got back markers between himself and Prost. And he's certainly rising to the occasion.
As you watch Mansell catching Nakajima, the surprise to me in this race is not only the fact that Ayrton Senna went out, and I'm still reeling from that one. Here's Nakajima. You're going to see the Ferrari shortly. There it is. There is the man, Nigel Mansell, the winner in 86 and 87. Second last year in that dreadful rain in the Williams-Judd. Now, the surprise I was saying is that we have had so many tyre changes. We weren't expecting that many. We possibly weren't expecting any from the leaders, and we haven't had them yet. So Prost now, and that's Thierry Boutsen. So one Williams out and shattered. Thierry Boutsen was in 5th position, and it looks as though his race is effectively run. Reaching down, he stalled the engine in the pits. They're going to push start him. Well, that has done Thierry Boutsen's chances absolutely no good whatsoever. As Prost, there is Prost coming up to Alesi, the Frenchman in the Tyrrell. And Alesi at the present moment is in 8th position. Prost lapped everybody up to 8th. Prost leads 3.6 seconds ahead of Mansell second, who is 35 seconds ahead of Piquet third. McLaren leads. Ferrari second, Lotus third. In 4th position, it's Nannini.
And I have to say, this is a tremendous performance for Team Lotus. Must be a tremendous fillip, because they've been a very demoralised team. And Nelson Piquet, to give him his due, is driving like a proper driver again. He is quite clearly fired up, and it's really a joy to see, and it's about time.
As you watch Mansell, I'll add to that by saying that Piquet loves fast circuits in general, Silverstone in particular. He hates slow circuits, and Monaco in particular, where he happens to live. And we're getting the proof of that now, because he is still in 3rd place, albeit a long way behind. Prost has now cleared the Lola of Eric Bernard. There is Alesi. Behind Alesi is Modena, who is in 8th position, and that is Nakajima in 9th place. So the Lotuses are 3rd with Piquet, 9th with Nakajima. And that is the Japanese driver, Nakajima. Behind him is Luis Sala in the Minardi. That's him in 10th position, the Spaniard. Then it's his teammate, Martini. In 12th place is Griard. And that is the Tyrrell of Jean Alesi, who has spun off on the infield from, what did I say, 7th position. He was in 7th position.
Yes, and for those of you who were very impressed by his performance in France, we all were, where he finished 4th. He spun off now, but for British racing enthusiasts, remember that Martin Donnelly drives in the same team as him in Formula 3000 and is quite clearly a class better.
Well, Nigel Mansell is the leading British driver at the moment in 2nd place. Then the second British driver in 13th position is Derek Warwick. In 14th position is Jonathan Palmer, and in 19th place, 2 laps down, is Martin Brundle, and he's the second of these 2 cars, because that's Modena. There is the World Sports Car Champion of 1988, Martin Brundle. They had all sorts of problems with the Brabhams in practice, notably, in their own words, that they were just too slow. And this morning they decided that the under tray was too flexible and set about reinforcing them with carbon fibre. So Martin Brundle is catching his teammate. But Alesi out, and here is the replay of the spin that took Jean Alesi. We're looking down from the helicopter. He spins right across the circuit. He's very, very lucky indeed not to have been collected by that Lotus. I couldn't spot, obviously, whether it was Nakajima or Piquet. But now we're on lap 32, almost at half distance. Second place, dropping back, Nigel Mansell, because we now have the fastest lap of the race from Alain Prost, who, as the fuel load lightens, is going faster and faster. 1 minute 13 seconds compared with the lap record as Mansell comes up to lap the Lola. There goes Prost.
Now we see again a lazy spin. So lazy comes in. Well, he was ahead of our position, and he just got across the circuit without taking anybody with him, and that was really in the lap of the gods. So it was quite lucky, but fortunately, no wrecks, nobody drowned.
Now at half distance, because we are on lap 3, you are watching, and words fail me to express this man's brilliance, Alain Prost on his way now with a comfortable cushion in the lead. 6.5 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. We're getting a repetition of the situation in the French Grand Prix last weekend. Prost leading, Mansell second, although Nigel's in second place much earlier than he was in France, with Nelson Piquet 40 seconds behind in third position. And in fourth place is the Benetton of Alessandro Nannini. So it's McLaren leading, a Ferrari second, a Lotus up in third place, a Benetton in fourth. In fifth position, Maurizio Gugelmin, who has stormed up through the field from his start position in the pit lane in the march to fifth position, ahead of Philippe Alliot, who is in the points. I keep on emphasising this. Philippe Alliot, that was his teammate Bernard. Philippe Alliot is in sixth position in the Lola Lamborghini. He's on target for a point. He was in fifth place and subsequently fifth place in sixth and subsequently fifth in France. That is Bernard, who is being caught and about to be lapped by Nigel Mansell second. And oh, that is Stefano Modena. You just saw the Brabhams going extremely well, with Modena up into seventh place, almost in the points. Now he is retiring to join Gerhard Berger, who's gone out, to join Ayrton Senna, who has gone out. We're on lap 35 now, and Stefano Modena is out of the race, and therefore there is Martin Brundle. And the race order then on this, the 34th lap in this 65-lap race, is Alain Prost leading by now nearly 9 seconds. He's easing away from Mansell. Third is Piquet, fourth is Nannini, fifth is Gugelmin. In sixth position and lapped is Philippe Alliot. Seventh is Nakajima now. So the Lotuses are respectively third and seventh. Nakajima, like Piquet, likes the quick circuits. Eighth is Sala, ninth is Martini, 10th is Griard, and that is Jonathan Palmer. Jonathan Palmer out of the running from the 13th position that he was in. Jonathan Palmer, Alesi spun, Jonathan Palmer has gone off, leaving a wheel almost on the circuit.
Yes, it certainly looks as if Jonathan made some sort of error or something went wrong with the car, because it looks as if he's hit something, and that's a great shame. But in the meantime, I can't praise the efforts of Nigel Mansell enough. Quite honestly, we know that the McLaren Honda is superior to, and there we see Prost just easing away. We know it's a superior combination of engine and chassis to the Ferrari at the moment. and Mansell's efforts to keep up have been absolutely heroic, and he's still only 9 seconds away, but Prost is now starting to dominate this race.
And I wish not to tempt fate, but as Jonathan Palmer walks in, if Alain Prost finishes where he is now, we're going to be faced with the incredible situation of him leading Ayrton Senna in the World Championship by 20 clear points. That's 2 races, 2 wins. And we certainly didn't expect that, because a lot of people had thought that Prost was demotivated and that Senna was going to walk all over him. Not true. So in the Shell British Grand Prix on the 36th lap, Alain Prost leads Nigel Mansell by 9 seconds, with Piquet in the Lotus third, Nannini in the Benetton fourth, Gugelmin up from the pit lane at the start in 5th position in his march, and in 6th place in the Lola Lamborghini, Frenchman Philippe Alliot, 1 lap behind, but looking as though he's going to get that vital point. And I'm just checking to see where his teammate Eric Bernard is, Alliot's teammate. He is in 17th place. He's been lapped twice. He's not doing as well at Silverstone as he did in France. But let's watch the Ferrari, the 640 Ferrari of Nigel Mansell second.
Yes, and I feel for Mansell, because just look at the way he's driving. He's absolutely on the limit all the way around the circuit, using every inch of the road and quite a lot of the curves and the edges, and all he's doing is losing ground slowly. He's now 9.5 seconds behind Prost, and when we go back to Prost, we'll see that Prost is really taking things quite comfortably, and that is the difference between the cars. And there is Ivan Capelli in his pit, presumably watching the monitor. And now we see Alain Prost, and there's no doubt that Prost is now taking this race at what for him is quite a comfortable speed. He is visibly driving within himself. He's not pushing the car to the edges. He's just letting the car do the work. And there's no doubt that he is not on 10 tenths, and there's nothing more frustrating than to be in Mansell's situation, where you're following that car and you know that that car in front is being driven very easily, and you're just blowing your mind trying to give it 11 tenths, and you still can't keep up. And that's what poor Mansell is doing at the moment. But his efforts are heroic and laudable, and he's making a race of this.
And as you can see from the coloured spots, with Prost the red one, Mansell the green one, Piquet the blue one, Prost is about 2/3 of a lap ahead of the third place man. And we have some very notable retirees. Berger is out, Ayrton Senna out with that sensational spin, Stefano Modena, Jonathan Palmer, Ivan Capelli, Thierry Boutsen and Riccardo Patrese, as Prost laps the Lola Lamborghini of Eric Bernard. And Mansell is actually lapping faster than Prost, but just 0.2 of a second faster, and it takes a lot of 0.2 to make up 9.2 seconds, which is the gap between Prost, the leader, on lap 38, and Mansell in second place, as the Ferrari goes round Abbey at about 165 now, up to the chicane, shortly to complete another lap.
Yes, Prost has now created a lead for himself that is comfortable to a driver, and he will now start basically allowing Mansell to dictate the pace. We see that he has superior speed with his McLaren Honda over Nigel Mansell's Ferrari, and so he will now be driving, as it were, in his mirrors. And I saw a bit of smoke then from the Lotus there, and that was a puff of smoke that may not be a very healthy sign. But yes, we've got flies on the screen from Nakajima on his camera lens. And of course we can't see the smoke out of the back from here.
Yeah, I have a nasty suspicion that we're about to see an exploding Judd. I hope I'm wrong. But the Martin Brundle charging now. There goes the Englishman, Martin Brundle, taking well, ahead of him is Pirro, the Italian, in the Benetton 188, which is last year's car. Martin Brundle is 15th in this race. He's ahead of Eric Bernard, who is in 16th place. And Gerhard Berger, I said, was out of the race. He's effectively out of the race. He rejoined, of course, but he's now 3 laps behind. And as you watch Martin Brundle now, ahead of Bernard in the Lola Lamborghini, both of them closing up on the smoking Lotus of Nakajima. The gap between Mansell and Prost, you see, is 7.8 seconds. It's shortening. Now, Prost's last lap, and because we were watching other things, I can't tell you whether he was in traffic, but it was 0.8 of a second slower than Mansell, who went round in 1 minute 13.7. Nigel Mansell has reduced the gap from over 9 seconds to under 8. Still in second place, of course. There is the Brabham, and it's Martin Brundle. And Griard in the background. Of course, they are now spread over a long distance. The first 5 are on the same lap, then 6th to 13th, with Thierry Boutsen in the running now, are on the same lap. Pirro, who is in 14th place, and Brundle, who is 15th, have been lapped twice. Bernard, Berger, who are in 16th and 17th place, have been lapped 3 times. And there are 17 cars left in the running for the British Grand Prix on this, the 41st lap out of 65.
Prost, I think, picked up pace on that lap, so we must assume that the slow lap before was as a result of traffic. And he and Mansell are still lapping pretty much at the same time, but I just get the feeling that it's always a bit of an uphill struggle for Mansell. Prost seems to be able to do the lap times comfortably, and Mansell seems to struggle to stay with him.
And out of the race has gone Philippe Alliot, who was in 6th position. I can tell you that Alliot has disappeared from the circuit. There he is, touring in. The reason he disappeared from the circuit is because he's gone into the pit lane, although that officially is part of the circuit. And Nannini, now in 4th position, you just saw him go through your picture, is about to be gobbled up and lapped by the flying McLaren Honda of the indomitable Alain Prost. There he goes. Well, what a man, Alain Prost. To Grand Prix in 1980. And he's Ayrton Senna talking to Gordon Murray on the right, Ron Dennis on the left. Ron Dennis, the head man, and he's obviously dispassionately explaining. And from the tap that he gave Ron Dennis, it looked to me as though he was saying, "Consolations, Ron." In other words, it wasn't my fault, mate.
Yes, that was certainly the body language, Murray. We saw him apparently throw it away. We know they got a new gearbox on, and there are weaknesses in reliability around there, and certainly we saw Ayrton just after his apparent throwing it away, and I would say from that he looked awfully comfortable with himself, and that looked like a driver who knew the car and had let go on him. And certainly with his skill and experience, you wouldn't expect him to make a mistake like that.
Now we're on lap 42 of the 65-lap British Grand Prix at the present moment. Prost leads, Mansell, the leading British driver, in 2nd place. Piquet 3rd, then Nannini, Gugelmin and Martini. 7th is Sala. He's never been as high as that in the Minardi this year. Nakajima in the 2nd Lotus is 8th, and Griard is 9th. Derry Warwick, the 2nd British driver, number 9, there he is in the arrows, is in 10th place ahead of Bertrand Gachot, driving in his 2nd Grand Prix for Onyx, 11th. Thierry Boutsen is 12th, and in 13th place is Pirro. 14th is the 3rd British driver, Martin Brundle. Bernard is 15th. Gerhard Berger is in 16th place, and that is the 2nd place man, Nigel Mansell, who now valiantly chasing Alain Prost. is coming up to Pirot in the Benetton, 9.4 seconds behind Prost, who is lapping a second faster than the Ferrari.
Just doing it, I think Mansell's got a puncture in his right rear. Mansell's got a puncture, I'm sure he's got a puncture. He has, right front. Right front and possibly right rear. So Mansell, suddenly the car sat down. And that's tragedy for Mansell, but he will still be in the points if the problem with a flat tyre is sometimes you can't get the jack under the car because its tummy sits on the ground. So long as they can get the jack under it quickly, he won't lose a lot of time. Should be on his way again in sort of around 10 seconds, so long as they can jack it up.
Right, now let's time this pit stop and see how long it takes. They know what the problem is. The air wrench is already on the hub, on the nut. The wheel has been replaced. You can see the seconds ticking away, and Mansell sprints away, and there is it. I made it less than that on my stopwatch, about 9.5 seconds.
So did I. The person driving the capture stopwatch stopped it a long time after he'd gone. Yes, about 10 seconds. And that was a good stop for a car with a puncture, because the car really sits down on the ground and it's very difficult to get it jacked up. But you saw the mechanics jump onto the wheels, get those wrenches working, and Mansell away again.
Yeah, and Mansell is only just ahead of Piquet. Now you're watching a replay of Nigel Mansell coming into the pits. He goes through the left-hander at bridge. Now all the time that tyre is fraying and tearing itself to pieces. Do you remember the German Grand Prix when Stefan Johansson came in on the brake disc? But Mansell is on his way now. He's got clear of Piquet. Alain Prost is on his 44th lap, and that of course is going to consolidate his lead massively, because Nigel Mansell, number 27 in the V12 Ferrari, was the only man who was offering him anything of a challenge at all.
Yes, and really a shame, because much as we like Prost, we don't want him to have his afternoons work too easy, and it really is a shame. Mansell still in second place, but now 54 seconds behind Prost, and that of course means that the battle for the lead, the battle for the win is all over bar the shouting, and the only thing that can go wrong is if Prost has trouble or breaks down, because there is absolutely no way that Mansell can catch him from this situation.
Well, let's have a look at the order then. We are now on the 44th lap, and there are the first 6. Alain Prost, having already won 37 Grand Prix, is on his way to that magic 40 that Jackie Stewart forecast for him at one time, not so very long ago. He said Alain Prost is going to win at least 40 Grand Prix before he retires. Well, he's showing no signs of retiring. We don't know what he's going to do next year, but as you can see, he's nearly a minute ahead of Mansell, who is 9 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is 9 seconds ahead of Nannini. Gugelmin 5th has been lapped. Martini 6th has been lapped. So it's McLaren leading Ferrari 2nd. Lotus still 3rd. Benetton 4th. Now we have the information about what happened to Ayrton Senna, because a message from the McLaren pit tells us that Ayrton Senna missed 3rd gear at that crucial point, and as a result of that went off.
Yes, the information we had also told us that he'd been having trouble with 3rd gear before, and therefore for a driver of his class who's trying to score points in the championship, that was unprofessional and a definite mistake. The fact that if he knew he had trouble with 3rd gear, when he didn't get it, he allowed it to throw him off the circuit.
You're watching now on lap 47, Alain Prost catching and soon lapping Alessandro Nannini, who's going well in the Benetton with the beefed up suspension, who is in 4th position. That's Nigel Mansell, 54 seconds now behind Prost,
but 11 seconds ahead of Piquet. And you can see that Nigel's speed is totally undiminished, because Nigel knows, as every Grand Prix driver knows, that if you keep going, you've always got a chance of victory. And Prost is coming into the pits. Alain Prost into the pits. And this is Nigel Mansell's chance, not only to catch him, but to pass him and take the lead of the British Grand Prix. Prost is in for tyres. Now, he should get out in the lead still, but my goodness, it's going to be a greatly diminished lead. And as you watch Alain Prost, I am watching the actual circuit to see where Nigel Mansell is. And Prost is held. Prost is taking an inordinately long time. And now Nigel Mansell is at club. He's on his way to Abbey, and still Prost is in the pits. Now he gets away. Nearly half a minute lost in the pits.
Yes, and if that was only tyres, that was a terrible pit stop. They got the fronts changed, they got it down off the jack, and then they just sat there. And this is going to be a very close run thing. Prost had the luxury. Prost is out of the pits. Mansell has just gone past us. And Mansell coming into Copse. Prost has just accelerated away, but remember, he'll have tyres that aren't up to full operating temperature, and Mansell will close the gap on him. So there is Mansell. Prost has just gone through. And Prost had the luxury, tactically, of being able to make a pit stop with plenty of time. But one of the things when you make pit stops, even if it's only for a tyre change, is that they are never guaranteed that they'll work all right, and Prost certainly needed that luxury. So Mansell chasing. We think Prost has just gone through ahead of this group. And there is Alain Prost coming into the chicane, and Mansell is exiting Club Corner as we speak and coming through Abbey Curve. So Prost has still got his lead, but it certainly G'd him up a bit.
Now I've got to watch running on this, and here is Nigel Mansell. The gap was 48 seconds, but now, with Prost having completed a lap, the gap is down to 12 seconds. Nigel Mansell has taken 25, nearly 30 seconds out of the lead. There's the gap, confirmation, 12.7 seconds between Nigel Mansell and Alain Prost, and they are on their 49th lap in this 65-lap race.
Yes, Mansell actually took 34 seconds out of Prost's lead then, over half a minute, and that was certainly a difficult pit stop. We don't know, we can't tell from our position whether they were doing anything other than just changing tyres, whether Prost had some other problem. Prost goes through just gone, and Mansell just coming into sight now, and the problem for Mansell is that he has got slower cars in front of him, but being as quick as he is on the straight, he should be able to deal with them relatively easily.
Yeah, interestingly enough, he's got ahead of him Sala in the Minardi, who is in 7th position. And Minardi, like Lola, is one of the teams that's yet to score a point, and it could make all the difference to the Minardi team. So Sala won't be at all anxious to move over. He is desperately anxious to get the point by moving up a place. But now, as Alain Prost is on his 50th lap, the gap is still 1 minute. No, the gap is still 12.6 seconds, and Mansell is lapping marginally faster, just 1/10 of a second faster than Alain Prost. And the race order, as you watch Alain Prost and look for Nigel Mansell, Piquet is in 3rd position, Nannini is in 4th place, in 5th place behind the Benetton is Mauricio Gugelmin's March, 6th is Martini, 7th is Sala, 8th is Griard, 9th is Nakajima, 10th is still Derek Warwick, 11th is Boutsen, and 12th is Pirot. 2 laps back is Bertrand Gachot, 13th, Brundle is 14th, then the remaining 2 runners, 15th and 16th, Bernard and Berger, both of them 3 laps behind the leader, who leads Nigel Mansell by 12.5 seconds to the nearest 10th. There is the Englishman. Nigel Mansell, I was just saying, Nigel Mansell knows that as long as you're on the circuit and fighting, you're in for a chance, and as I said it, Prost went into the pits and lost 34 seconds of his lead to Nigel Mansell. So there is Bertrand Gachot, here is Alain Prost, the leader.
round Beckett's, round Chappell now, the left-hander, down the Hanger Straight, building up to 185 miles an hour. I don't think you'll be able to see Mansell as Prost goes into Stowe, because the gap is over 12.5 seconds.
Yes, and Prost has responded now to Mansell's threat and his own problem in the pits, and has actually extended his lead. He's now 13.5 seconds in front of Mansell, who we see still keeping the pressure on absolutely 100%, which is without any doubt the right tactics, because if anything is going to go wrong with Prost's McLaren, the only way to make it go wrong is for Mansell to push him as hard as he can and make Prost have to push his car to make it go wrong. And there's no doubt that Mansell will keep that pressure on for as long as he possibly can, right up to the end of the race, so long as he and his car stay healthy.
And the end of the race is 13 laps away, and now Prost 1 minute 12.8 to the nearest 10th, and that's an average over the whole lap of nearly 150 miles an hour. The fastest lap we've ever had at Silverstone was 160 miles an hour during practice by Keke Rosberg. Mansell has passed Bertrand Gachot in the Onyx car. Bertrand in his second Grand Prix. Sadly, his teammate Stefan Johansson failed to pre-qualify. The gap now, as you look at Nigel Mansell in the V12 Ferrari, and sticking my neck out and making a prophecy, I'll say I sincerely believe that Mansell's going to finish this race. It looks as though the Ferraris have got the reliability that they have been striving for. They've overcome the alternator problem. They've overcome the hydraulic pressure problem for the semi-automatic gearbox. They have lightened the engine. They have improved the aerodynamics. They've got a new rear roll bar, which is making the car handle well. That is Nakajima being lapped by Nannini, the Italian, who is in 4th place, and Satoru Nakajima is in 9th place, and that's Martin Brundle pulling off. Martin Brundle joining his teammate Stefano Modena in retirement, and Brundle was in 14th position. Well, sad race for Brabham, but a good race thus far for Lotus, and here is Nelson Piquet driving the race of the year for him in 3rd position. He's been there for a long time. He's going extremely well. The car, Lotus Judd V8.
Yes, without any doubt, he looks like a completely different person this weekend, and really it's now looking on board from Piquet's car, and really it's a joy to see him fired up. And there's Gerhard Berger. The problem with the Ferrari, and that looks like bye-bye for Berger, but remember he lost 2 laps very early on in the race. He came into the pits after 1 or 2 laps, lost a couple of laps, and now back to Nelson Piquet, and really it is a pleasure to see a man who we know has got talent using it again.
He's got to use it as much as he can, because Alessandro Nannini is catching him. The Benetton now in 4th position behind the 3rd place man that we're riding with. 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet is only 3 seconds behind and gaining. Alessandro Nannini then in the new Benetton B189. There he is in the background. That's Nannini, and he's catching the 3rd place man Piquet. Prost leads Mansell by 15 seconds now. Prost has just gone round the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 13.2. That's nearly a second faster than Mansell, 1:13.01. But the battle now is for 3rd position between Nelson Piquet in the yellow Lotus and Alessandro Nannini in the multi-coloured Benetton. Gugelmin is in 5th place, Martini is 6th, Sala is 7th, Griard is 8th, Nakajima is 9th, Warwick is 10th.
Yes, and having solved his drama in the pits when he went in for tyres, and there was a bit of a hiccup for Alain Prost, we thought we might have a bit of a race, but really, quite honestly, he's just confirming his superiority and how easy it is for him in front, because he seems to be able to put in fastest laps, really with no special effort. Mansell's efforts are quite heroic behind. We can see that by the way he's using every inch of road. But the battle we're now looking at mainly is the one where Nannini is closing down on Nelson Piquet, as we see Piquet now, and there is Nannini, and he's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, and I think Piquet's got a misfire. It's only 1.5 seconds. Nannini closing. No, Piquet sounds all right as he goes through. But nevertheless, Alessandro Nannini with the new Ford V8 engine, which is exclusive to Benetton and which powered the Benetton in its first Grand Prix in France last weekend to second place before the Benetton left rear suspension collapsed. That's Maurizio Gugelmin going into the pits. It's still on lap 55 out of 65. Prost leading Mansell by 15 seconds, and again going marginally slower. There's the battle for third, Piquet and Nannini. That is Nigel Mansell coming through to complete another lap. Let's see what the gap is as he goes over the line. The Ferrari is 13.5 seconds and lapping 1.5 seconds faster than Prost in this race of changing fortunes. Prost has been in front all the way except for the laps that Ayrton Senna led at the beginning. Prost took over on the 12th lap. Out of the race goes Maurizio Gugelmin to join the other retirees, and there's now quite a lot of them now because effectively there are only 13 cars left.
And the misfire that we heard as we went past was actually Nannini's car rather than Piquet's, running, well, I say misfire, running a bit rough, and it sounds very much to us like a broken exhaust, which makes the car sound absolutely horrible, but doesn't actually lose it a lot of power.
And Alain Prost is leading there on the circuit. Emanuele Pirro, the likeable Italian, in the second, last year's Benetton. He's in 12th position, and he's, I think, 2 laps now behind Prost. Now, Alessandro Nannini is 35 seconds behind Alain Prost. There is the race leader. And there is Olivier Grillard, the only Ligier driver to qualify. He is in 8th position. And race order again. Prost leads, Mansell second, Piquet third, Nannini fourth, Gugelmin fifth, Martini 6th, Sana 7th, Grillard in 8th position, Nakajima 9th, Derek Warwick is in 10th position, 11th is Boots and 12th is Pirro, 13th is Gasho, and look at this, Nannini there in 3rd position, despite the misfire or the broken exhaust, ahead of Nelson Piquet. Alessandro Nannini, who failed to finish a worthy second in France, looks as though he's going to finish a worthy third in Britain 1 week later. He's on lap 57 now. It's a 65 lap race. He's pulling fast away from Nelson Piquet, now down to 4th position. Gugelmin is still in 5th place in the march. Martini up into the points, and Minardi, like Lola, have failed to score points. They're going to welcome that one. They've only ever had 1 World Championship point, and Pierluigi Martini, who's now in 5th position, is the man who scored it for them. Prost leading Mansell by 12 seconds. Mansell consistently going faster than the McLaren. He's lapping half a second faster now, but I suspect that Alain Prost, knowing exactly what the score is, as you watch Alessandro Nannini in 3rd position, and there are the 3 cars he's about to lap, with Nelson Piquet behind him in 4th position.
Yes, and I'm sure that's a broken exhaust, because as he went past us then, the car sounded absolutely horrible, but he couldn't be pushing away from Piquet like that if it was anything more than a broken exhaust. So I don't think he's lost a cylinder or anything. I think it's just the exhaust system falling apart around him, and the engine loses really probably 2 or 3%, maybe a maximum 5% power, and that's not too significant. You see the gap now as Piquet appears behind, and he's really stretching it away.
Now Prost has gone through and completed another lap. He's on his 59th lap now. I'm waiting to see when Mansell goes through what the gap is, and Nigel does that now, and it is 11.9 seconds. And still Mansell is lapping faster. There's the numbers which indicate 2 Prost the lead, 27 Mansell second, 19 Nannini third, 11 Piquet is 4th, 23 Martini is 5th,
His teammate Sala is in 6th position, so this is a real turn-up for the book for the Minardi team. In 7th position, number 26 is Olivier Grillard, then it's Nakajima, number 12, and finally on that line there, Derek Warwick in 10th position in the British Grand Prix on lap 59, 65-lap race. And Mansell has lapped Pirot again. There's the Roman, Emanuele Pirot, who has spent an enormous amount of time in the last couple of years in Japan as the McLaren Honda tester. He's probably driven more Formula One miles than any 2 Grand Prix drivers in the last couple of years. And that's Boutsen about to be lapped by Alain Prost. Now, Boutsen in the Williams is running in 10th place. He's been lapped once. He's going to be lapped twice very shortly. The gap between Prost and Mansell is now just a whisker under 12 seconds, with Nannini 25 seconds behind Mansell, with Piquet now 10 seconds in 4th place behind Nannini. Martini in 5th place has been lapped, as has Sala. 7th is Grillard, 8th is Nakajima, 9th is Warwick, 10th is Boutsen, who's been lapped once. 11th is Pirot, who's been lapped twice. 12th is Gachot, who has been lapped twice, and now Boutsen has been lapped twice, and Gugelmin, who's we have seen retire, was 4 laps down at the time. Well, it's been a race of changing fortunes at the front as well at Silverstone, but once again we're seeing that when the McLaren Honda keeps going, it is still invincible. Over the line goes Prost. The gap was 12.6 seconds. Now let's see what it is as Prost heads down towards and round Copse and on towards Maggots and Beckett's. Nigel Mansell crosses the line, 14 seconds now behind. So again, Prost is pulling away. He was 1.5 seconds faster than Mansell on that lap.
Yes, it all looks tremendously comfortable for Prost now. He's in front of the race. His task now really is to control the race, to drive to the gap that he's got to Mansell. It's quite clear that despite his Herculean efforts to chase there, and there is Mansell, and certainly Herculean his efforts have been, that Prost has a car advantage that he just can't make up for, and Prost is now comfortably reeling off the closing laps, watching the gap and driving basically to Mansell's pace.
Which is 1 minute 13.8 seconds per lap at the moment, Nigel Mansell's pace, whereas Prost on the previous lap was 1.5 seconds faster. Here he is, here's the McLaren. There is Boutsen, lapped twice. Now the McLaren of Alain Prost leading, designed by the team led by Neil Oakley. Gordon Murray, the technical director at McLaren. They have a tremendously strong team because Steve Nichols, who led the design team for last year's World Championship winning McLaren, handed over the design for the new car, or rather the design for the new car was proceeded separately by Neil Oakley last year. That's how far McLaren think ahead and plan ahead, and that's one of the reasons for their superiority over all the other teams. There are absolutely no weak links in the McLaren organisation, and now Alain Prost has got 3 laps only to go at the end of this one.
Yes, and finally I think that Nigel Mansell has abdicated and has settled for second place. Prost's right front tyre looks a little bit marked up, but that won't worry him as the right-hand side of the car doesn't do a lot of work at Silverstone. And Mansell is now lapping well over a second a lap slower than Prost, and I think he's eased up, settling for second place. And who could blame him? He has really no chance of catching Prost now, and he can't even put pressure on from this distance. And certainly it was, from Mansell's point of view, the sort of gutsy, aggressive drive that we would have expected and hoped for at the British Grand Prix. Really a marvellous race by Mansell. He certainly livened this race up, because without him, the McLaren dominance of Prost would have been really quite boring. certainly wrestled the Ferrari around and got 110% out of that car.
5 different constructors with 2 laps to go in the first 5 places, with a McLaren leading, this Ferrari in second place, Nannini's Benetton in 3rd position, Piquet's Lotus in 4th place, and then the 2 Minardis, and my goodness, the Minardi team must be absolutely on tenterhooks in 5th and 6th position, Martini and Sala. And now Alain Prost is on his last lap. He's on his 65th and last lap in the British Grand Prix, on his way to his 38th record victory.
Yes, and such a shame that he wasn't pressed harder, Alain Prost, because I think even he, as a racer, would, we all like an easy afternoon's work, but really the opposition once again dissipated itself, and it was only Mansell's heroic efforts behind in a car that really wasn't any match for the McLaren Honda that gave us any sort of a race at all. And it was all a little bit too easy once Ayrton Senna had thrown it away with gearbox trouble that he already knew about, and that just gave it to Prost. However, the McLaren machine continues. Prost wins, but a tremendous drive by Nigel Mansell into second place, not only for himself, but for all of us. We were well entertained.
Prost goes into the last corner of the British Grand Prix. The checkered flag is ready. He exits the last Grand Prix to win his 38th Grand Prix, to win the British Grand Prix here at Silverstone, the halfway round, and to go 20 points clear of his bitter teammate Ayrton Senna, as Nigel Mansell, waving to the crowd, takes a superb second position for the 2nd Grand Prix in succession, 2nd in France, 2nd in Britain, and Alessandro Nannini is going to finish in 3rd place, a long way back, but the crowd is giving Mansell a gigantic roar of applause, as they are, sportsmen every one of them, because the British motor racing crowd at Silverstone knows it's motor racing, as they are to this man, winner Alain Prost. And now Ayrton Senna must be really worrying about his chances of making it the World Championship double in 1989 as well as 1988. Alain Prost wins the British Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell finishes 2nd in the Ferrari, 20 seconds behind the Frenchman. Alessandro Nannini finishes 9 seconds in 3rd place in the Benetton behind Nigel Mansell. Nelson Piquet again finishes in 4th position, as he did in Canada. Martini takes 2 points for Minardi, and Sala takes a point for Minardi. 5th and 6th places, 3 points for Minardi. That means that they will avoid pre-qualification. Griar 7th, Nakajima 8th, Warwick 9th, Boutsen in 10th position, Emanuele Pirro in 11th place, and Bertrand Gachot again finishes in the Onyx for the 2nd Grand Prix in succession to take 12th place. Now there is the Drivers' Championship after the British Grand Prix, the half-distance race in the 16-round World Championship. Prost 20 seconds ahead of Senna 2nd, Senna just 5 points ahead of Patrese 3rd, who is 1 point ahead of Mansell 4th. Boutsen in 5th position, and Nannini 1 point behind him in 6th place.
Murray Walker and James Hunt describing great entertainment at Silverstone. Nigel Mansell deservedly remaining the crowd's favourite, but Alain Prost takes a giant stride towards that world title. Grand Prix highlights 10:15 tonight on BBC Two. Now, what other motorsport news can we give you before we head back to that Gulf at St. Melian? The American world champion Eddie Lawson on a Honda won the French 500cc motorcycle Grand Prix at Le Mans, ahead of compatriot Kevin Schwantz on a Suzuki. Another American, Wayne Rainey, was third on a Yamaha. Rainey retained his lead in the World Championship standings. And don't forget British Bike Grand Prix, August the 6th at Donington. Live coverage here once again on Sunday Grandstand. Bit of a fright for the 5 times British Rally champion Jimmy McRae and his co-driver Rob Arthur. They escaped injury in a big accident in New Zealand today. McRae's Ford Sierra Cosworth rolled at 130 miles an hour, was virtually destroyed, on the second day of the World Championship New Zealand Rally. The current leader is Ingvar Carlsson of Sweden in a Mazda, with Britain's Malcolm Wilson third in a Vauxhall. Better news for the McRae family is that Jimmy's son Colin is currently fifth in another Ford Sierra. Now it's back to the golf, which is that Britain against USA challenge taking place today at the St Melian course in Cornwall, the St Melian Challenge. Tom Watson and Jack Nicklaus for the USA against Nick Faldo and Sandy Lyle for Great Britain. Medal match play and all square at 1 under par after the first 3 holes. We join it at the 4th with commentators Clive Clark and Bruce Critchley.
The first of 4 short holes here at St Melian, the 4th, 185 yards, played from an elevated tee through, as you can see, trees and banks on either side, a shortened version, in fact, of the previous hole. And the safe side is to the left.
All right. 26. When you're ready, John. All right, 180. Okay.
Watson to play first. I say you can, if you're going to miss this green, you've got to miss it left, and you've always got a chance of coming down the bank. Miss it right, and you're going to be thrown away into the most appalling country. Yeah. 185 yards, 6, maybe even 7 iron.
And hit hard. Your hole, partner.
That's the side, not to miss it. That could be anywhere. Well, partner, I've just had a couple of birdies. Leave this one to you. Brilliant shot.
Ham and egg.
Nick Faldo. And although they went a shot ahead at the first, birdies at the next 2 and looking like a third one here. Oh, and there you see it. Oh, she goes. And we begin to wonder who's been playing the really great golf all this year of these two. Lyle, a bit in the doldrums, Faldo, the Masters, and 3 or 4 other titles.
Mine was definitely landing pin high, so you don't have to. It's normal for you.
Go. You're up. You're up. It's a great shot now, but it was flirting with danger. So 2 on the green and 2 away in the trouble. There's the map of this hole, 185 yards, 166 to the front of the green. And bunkers guarding the right-hand side. You'd be better off in those rather than down the bank on the right where Watson and Faldo are.
Tony, where's the pin?
And you can't see any golfers, you can just see a little gap between the spectators. There's Watson.
Right here. Thank you.
Yeah, down there.
We've got a camera down. I'm not playing this without a TV camera.
Yeah, the camera down. On the top of the hill there. You can see the ball from up.
Yeah, we can come up here. He's right here.
Well, you'll excuse us if we don't get the camera down there. And he's played a great shot. Great shot. He was some 40 feet down the bank. Rolls away down the slope.
Wait, don't step on my ball.
Give it a break.
Here.
Well, Watson was full of jocularity. He's down there as well.
Pull up. Land.
Ooh, I don't think I can get out of here. Hold back.
We can hear Tom, but we can't see him. And a very similar position in which Faldo was in. I'd almost expect to see a puff of smoke arrive over the hillside.
I'll play your next shot for you, Tom. Let me play your next shot.
Play next shot. Okay.
And they find this a bit difficult for them. They've only got one man to blame, and he's playing with them.
I was sitting down too much. I couldn't get it up there. I could hit right on my face.
Well, Nick's going to have a go, and of course if he can knock his in, then it makes life a little bit easier for his partner Lyle. Not quite enough. We'll give him a 4. I think it would have been Watson, but I think he's with his partner only a foot or two away. He's picked his ball up, and it's now Sandy to putt. And he must believe if he doesn't get this in, his side will go one behind. Left, and well, he's certainly not dead. Right, an awkward putt coming back.
That's the green. Partner, that's the green.
Looks like a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's green from right to left there.
Pop it up, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what it looks like.
And Nicholas might have learnt a little bit from that putt, coming from a similar sort of direction. This for a 2. Oh, he's pushed it. In fact, he read too much into Lyle's putt. I'm sure that was the cause of that. So great opportunity. Passed up.
Right.
And in fact, looked at from that angle, of course, that's well, should be no problem for him, but I know one or two people who wouldn't like it. Safely in, it's a 3, and well, that's the first time he's